White. Wide open Torrence! Oh, baby! Touchdown! How do you leave the best receiver in the NAIA that wide open?
You show, and that's what we do! Cat!
You're proud of me?
And it's caught! Oh my goodness! Troy Torrence comes down with it!
Welcome all to Bankroll Blitz. Happy New Year to everyone. We have reached week 18 of the regular season. And as much as the work is extremely difficult, I'm sad that it's coming to an end. I've enjoyed this 18-week run, 19, including the Futures episode that we did. Troy, I'm excited about the playoffs. I don't, not having the cap, 16 games, and as complex of a sport as football, it's probably nice for our schedule. But I'm going to miss it very, very much. Happy New Year, Troy. It's great to see you, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Obviously, I wasn't thrilled about the week that was. The Falcons just kind of ripped the heart out of my damn chest. But if you're a gambler, variance is part of the game, and it could last for an extended period of time. So be ready for the ride. Another thing, after I bet the Falcons, I start digging around. You hear all the sentiment. You look in the databases. All the favorites have been cashing. Yeah, my ROI on dogs this year is atrocious. I'm down 22 units betting plus the points. Minus 23% ROI. I lost 12 bets in a row betting dogs.
Wow.
Which is completely different from last season, right? I mean, I feel like I don't know. It's just been a crazy year, and I'm ready to get into the playoffs.
I believe the record was set in 2005 with the most favorites cashing, and we're about to break that record in week 18. This will be the most favorites cashing since they've kept track.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense there. I mean, you talk about variance with the Falcons game. It's Raheem Morris.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not – at some point, you can't trust certain coaches to handle their timeouts late in the game to preserve time. I don't know how you can bet on them. And we saw Eberflus lose his job in a similar situation. If I was the owner, Black, right? For the Falcons, I would have to fire Raheem Morris at the end of the year. He can't handle the pressure of handling the timeouts and time preservation. And he went to Penix too late in the season for it to help the team. You're fired. I don't care how much
it's cost them a playoff spot and a team that could be a threat if they put some of the defensive pieces together, right? I mean, it's just
which they sort of did in the second half of the year. We know he's a defensive coach.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the cappers joining us. We've got Mac Beavers in the house, Dougie Wise, McCall Garrow. Great to see you. Jim Dewigger, Ziggy Balls, T. Moss, D. Jenkins. Great to see all of you guys. Thank you for joining us. It's a different time than usual. Wednesday show. We'll be back to our Tuesday shows starting next week. But let's get right to work because we have 16 games to attack. Let's start with the week that was very strong. I had a very strong week. With the favorites cashing, the double result is simply the best bet in football. My ROI is out of control with the double result. And it was another weekend of the double result cashing nonstop. The only I did lose the Colts double result and the Lions double results. It wasn't all glorious, but, cashing the Seahawks double result in a 6-3 victory, cashing the Rams double result in a 13-9 victory, cashing the Dolphins double results so easily. I mean, it's a great, great, great bet. We got Joe Walsh in the house, Slatsy 45 ready to get to work. Leonard Welch, great to see you. And Dan Kelly. I was speaking with Troy earlier today about that Ravens to win the division 3 weeks ago, plus 175. Excuse me, a bet that Dan Kelly was pushing us to move on. What a glorious, glorious casher here. Mel says that she's living off of double results. I get it. RVD 420 in the house. Vincent Hawkins, you were right. The Colts were horrific. But let's talk about the week that was and get into business here. For me, I went 12-6, plus 5.23 units. I'm at my high water mark of the season. My first half of my action, Troy, was very good. When we went to our Sunday NFL pop-up show, I was in grave danger. I was so concerned about the second half of my action. We'll go over it. My first bets were all pretty much glorious. A Ravens double result. Seahawks -3 was a push. Seahawks double at +105 cashed. Bengals -3 cashed. Denver, Cincinnati over 49.5 cashed. A Rams double result cashed. Rams -6.5 lost. Cardinals team total under 20. It's so easy. Cashed. And Colts. Well, that was it. That was my. So I was 7-1. Then my action looked very dubious. I had the Colts double result. Carolina +8.5. That lost. Carolina, Tampa Bay over 49 and a half cashed thanks to the Buccaneers. Excuse me. Dolphins double result cashed. Miami -6.5 cashed. Miami, Cleveland under 40.5 cashed. I had Miami at 6.5. They closed at 3. I was very uncomfortable. Dallas full game +9 was terrible. Dallas first half +4.5, terrible. Lions -4 cashed. Detroit double result didn't. And my only addition on the entire card was that Kansas City Pittsburgh under 46 that cashed easily. So it was 12-6, a +5.23 units for me. We got interest coming in from Ron Crawford on his Chiefs. Wentz will start. There was rumors going around. We'll talk about it during the game. There was rumors going around that Mahomes may be in for a couple drives. He's not going to be. Garoppolo starting for the Rams. Excellent stuff. Thank you, Ron, my man. Troy, the week that was for you was difficult. Steelers, Ravens, Steelers. The Steelers didn't work, but you got it all back with your player props in that game.
Yeah, I mean, for the prop markets, I've been absolutely crushing, and that's something to talk about. Something I'm definitely considering paying way more attention to moving forward.
As you should.
In the NFL specifically.
Absolutely. Najee Harris over 44.5 rush cash. Jalen Warren over 33.5 rush cash. Frymouth over 28.5 receiving yards cash. Ravens -4. Ravens double result was a thing of beauty. Then you had the overs and Bears Seahawks, which hurt you. And then anything in that game hurt you. DJ Moore over and Charbonnet over. And then the Pats Chargers under hurt you. Bengals -3 cashed for you. Bengals double result cashed for you. Bengals and Rams money line and Bengals and Chargers money line. That was a real nice group of action for you. Adam Thielen over 55.5 receiving yards. What a monster day he had. You absolutely crushed that. 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was spectacular. Then there was some tough spots that I was involved with you on. Panthers +8.5, Cowboys +9.5. I mean, with Chuba Hubbard being out, what a disaster the Panthers are. If it's just Bryce Young who's going to beat you. I mean, Chuba Hubbard had 1,200 yards almost. So that hurt. You had a 3-team teaser that hurt because the Colts were involved. Then you had Packers and Packers money line, Vikings Packers under 49. The Viking Packers under 49. There was a couple totals that were the right side. The Bills Jets under, which I didn't move on, but would have lost, and the Vikings Packers under. Those should have cashed for gamblers. Then you got hurt with the Falcons, but you cashed Washington Falcons over 47. And then you pretty much you lost a little bit of vig in your Lions action just because of the first quarter and the double result, but you got it back there. So I can understand that you're probably champing to get to work right now.
I'm ready, brother.
Great to see all of you guys. Yes, Mac Beavers. Barkley sits. This was, I would say, the most difficult card to cap. I had to keep going back to beat writers to certain things to see what the hell was going on. Then the information started coming out in the afternoon, but a little late for the amount of work that I put into it. Jim Dewey had that Packers Vikings under as well. That was tough. So thank you guys for joining us. And yes, Mac Beavers, all of the Eagle stars are sitting. Barkley's not going for the rushing record. We'll get into that. So let's get right to work. Thank you guys for joining us. Bankroll Blitz Week 18. We start on Saturday, January 4th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Cleveland Browns 3-13, 1-7 on the road. The Baltimore Ravens 11-5, 5-2 at home. We're at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. Let's get into the line history and the cash flow. Right now, we have 17.5s across the board. I'm looking at an 18 just because it opened at 18 here. In that time, it's made a 17-cent move towards the Browns at 18. Open 18 minus 103 now, plus 18 minus 120. So we have a 17-cent move towards the Browns at that number. From a total side of things, we have a 41.5. It's minus 109 to the over. This opened up at 42.5. We have dropped a point. The last time the Ravens were this big of a favorite, it was against the New York Giants. I was on the under in that game, and it didn't cash. The Ravens just put up too many points in that game. Yes, Luke Burrow in the house. JW, great to see you. Ron Crawford says, looks like Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We expect Dorian Thompson-Robinson to be playing. We're going to go over that right now, but that is the expectation at this point. Let's get into the cash flow for this one. 43% of the tickets on the Browns, 60% of the cash on the Browns. From a total side of things, 84% of tickets on the over and 79% of cash on the over. I should also probably say something here, too, that I really do love the final 2 weeks of NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL. And longer than that in NHL and NBA when motivation is such a factor. But about 6 years ago, I went 0-8 on week 18 in Costa Rica in a very important week. I ended up sweeping the board in wild card week, but I was ashamed and angry, and since then I've understood that I've got to be extremely careful in week 18. As careful as you could imagine. And there's a couple spots that I will talk about that remind me of mistakes that I've made, especially that I made 6 years ago on that fateful Sunday down at Escazú. So we'll go over that. But let's start with the Cleveland Browns here. We don't need to break down their passing offense or their rushing offense yards-wise because Dorian Thompson-Robinson is at quarterback, and it now looks like it could be Zappy for a bit. We expect Zappy to see some time, but now there's no Nick Chubb. There may be no Jerome Ford, so it's Donta Foreman. So it doesn't. Studying those statistics won't help. We know it's the worst third down offense in the league, 29.3%. We know that it's the sixth worst red zone offense in the league at 50%. Their passing defense, 13th. They allow 212.1 yards per game. Their rushing defense, 19th, allowing 124.1 yards per game. Red zone defense, 22nd, 61.2% of the time they allow touchdowns. Their third down defense has been very strong this year, third at 35.2%. Dan Kelly says Cleveland has a great shot at the first pick in the draft. Two teams in front of them are playing teams resting their starters, and Baltimore wants to win. Yes, and because I do have the Patriots to have the worst record, which they have right now at plus 320. So we're going to discuss that as well here because it feels like it may be a spot that I'll need to hedge. And Troy I spoke with Troy about the spot earlier. It's not quite a big enough score. I thought I had 500 on it. I only have 400 on it. But I think it is responsible probably to take the Patriots money line in the Bills-Patriots game, but we'll get to that. Browns coming off their fifth straight loss, an extremely ugly 20-3 setback at home to the Dolphins. Dorian Thompson-Robinson was 24-47 for 170 yards, no touchdowns and interception. He also lost a fumble. He was also flagged 3 times for intentional grounding. He is horrific. And the Browns are trying to lose out. We know the situation. They want the number 1 overall pick. Now, Thompson-Robinson has the lowest yards per attempt in the history of NFL football, with any quarterback throwing a minimum of 170 passes. His yards per attempt mark of 3.8 on 227 pass attempts is the worst of any quarterback in NFL history. You know who he plummeted past, Troy? Kim McQuilkin. Kim McQuilkin is the quarterback that he blew past, and he's way behind McQuilkin. McQuilkin's YPA is 4.2 yards per attempt. So he is a calf injury, limited participant in the walkthrough yesterday, but it looks like he will start. Jameis Winston will, with the right shoulder injury, is the emergency quarterback, and they're going to work through this quarterback situation this week. So Stefanski said it's very possible that Thompson-Robinson and Zappy both play. If Zappy does start, which we don't think will happen, he'll be the 40th quarterback to start for the Browns since 1999. Of course, Zappy signed off the Chiefs practice squad in October, right after Deshaun Watson was placed on IR, 4th-round pick in the 2022 draft, 25-year-old Bailey Zappy. So Donta Foreman took the reins, as we talked about Ford and Chubb being out, 13 carries for 49 yards. Pierre Strong Jr. also left with a head injury, so he's in concussion protocol. So it'll be the Foreman show. Jerry Jeudy led receivers with 12 catches for 94 yards. As we know, Njoku missed the game with a knee injury. He's not suiting up this week. And Cedric Tillman's on IR with the concussion. He's done for the year. Offense had 3.6 yards per play, 7-17 on third down, 0-4 on fourth down, 0-3 in the red zone. The defense tried to keep them in it. It held the Dolphins to 2-12 on third and fourth down, but the Dolphins went 2 of 2 in the red zone. Pass rush had 4 sacks, 8 quarterback hits. Miles Garrett, had a pair of sacks on his 29th birthday. 14 sacks this season. He's the first player in NFL history to get at least 14 sacks 4 years in a row. And you have to question the Browns' brain trust again. We don't need to get into this, but they released Tyler Huntley in August. Huntley went 22 of 26 for 225 yards and a touchdown, ran 7 times for 50 yards, touchdown. Clearly the best quarterback on the field. Denzel Ward didn't play in the second half, hurt his shoulder. We don't expect him to play here. So Cameron Mitchell will be the second outside corner opposite Martin Emerson. Now, it's not confirmed that Ward won't go. It's just expected. Just like linebacker Jordan Hicks is not expected to. Nobody out of the playoffs who had a concussion in week 17 plays in week 18. They don't rush them through protocol. So Jordan Hicks will be out. Denzel Ward expected to be out. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens. As I said, I screwed this up against the Giants. I don't want to screw it up here. Passing offense, 6th in the league, 238.6 yards per game. Rushing offense, 2nd, 185.6. Red zone offense, 1st, 74.2% of the time they score touchdowns. 3rd on offense, 3rd at 48%. Passing defense is 3rd worst yards-wise in the NFL. They allow 248.5 yards per game. The rushing defense is 1st at 81.6. Now, that pass defense spent most of the season as the worst, so it's actually improving a bit. Red zone defense, 14th at 55.3%. Third down defense, 20th at 40.2%. So, of course, the Ravens win the AFC North with a victory here. They have a lot on the line. They come in off a dominant 31-2 victory at Houston. Lamar Jackson, 10 of 15 for 160 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He also ran 4 times for 87 yards and a touchdown. Now he has 6,110 rushing yards to pass Michael Vick for the leader in NFL history at quarterback rushing yards. Mark Andrews caught 2 for 68 and a touchdown. Derrick Henry ran 27 times for 147 yards and a touchdown. He also caught 2 passes for 18 yards. That also upset me, Troy. I said on our show that anytime Justice Hill is not available, you have to take Derrick Henry props. I said on the show, and I didn't do it. And I guess sometimes you get overwhelmed with action and stuff like that. But there's really no excuse for that. Just leaving money on the table out of sheer, I don't know. I don't know what the word idiocy.
For props. That's what I feel like it is. Like up until the last minute, because it's the last thing I'm capping. I agree, though. I agree. It's neglect.
Yeah, it was very, very bothersome. He set the Ravens record with his 16th touchdown on a 2-yard run in the first quarter. Ray Rice in 2011, Mark Ingram in 2019. Offense put up 7.1 yards per play, went perfect 3 for 3 in the red zone. Defense had its best game of the year. Held the Texans to 0 offensive points, 3.9 yards per play, just 10 first downs. Held them to 4-17 on 3rd and 4th down, 0 of 2 in the red zone. Pass rush had 5 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. Kyle Hamilton was dominant, had an interception, looked excellent. So, again, we have to decide who is trying and who isn't, and this is probably the easiest example that we have. Take it away for us here. I've yet to make a single bet on this card. I need to talk everything out. Take it away, Troy. Browns, Ravens.
So I have moved on some spots this week, but like you said, you want to tread very lightly, especially when you're up. You know, me and Jimmy are both in the black. It's not like you're trying to rush, press action at this point, especially this late in the season. But I do have a little bit of action, but it's going to be my lightest card of the year so far. I probably will be adding props late, but in this game specifically, we know the Ravens are going to win this game. It's just a matter by how much. And you know, I don't want to be laying 3 possessions in Week 18. And you look at the history of this type of spot where you got home teams favored by 2 touchdowns or more, 14 points or bigger, favorites at home. They're 1-8 ATS after Week 14. So I just, you know, I would have to say that if I was going to be betting the Ravens straight, it would be a first half bet or some type of play like that. Maybe doing using the double result as a parlay piece. It's about -450. So it doesn't even offer that good of juice. Like there's really not a lot of value to be had in this game. Probably able to find something in the prop market. Maybe not in this game, actually. Now, thinking about what the Browns offenses look like. But what I do know is, well, thinking about the Browns too, it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle the offseason. I think they need a new offensive coordinator. I know there was a lot of hype around them for a few years now, but they just have an inability to run the football. Good offensive linemen, decent running backs. Chubb was great before his injury, but even when Chubb was not injured, like they struggled to run the ball. Something about the offense has changed, needs to change. They obviously need a new quarterback, and I think they need to add layers to their defensive scheme. The Browns, that is. They play a great man coverage, but there's really no curveball. Like you need to have an ace in the hole. You need to have something you pull out on 3rd down that's completely surprising, like Vic Fangio does for the Eagles. You don't see that in Cleveland. But one of my favorite bets right now, thinking about this game, is the Ravens to win the AFC. I talked about, everyone knows my sentiment with the Chiefs. I think the Bills is it just a terrible matchup for the Ravens, especially up front and the ground and pound type of game that the Ravens play offensively. Then you got the Chargers, maybe a little bit of a sleeper there with the Chargers, but I think that you touched on the Ravens defense getting a little bit better, especially their pass defense. Well, you're damn right they got a lot better. Not only numerically when you look at the numbers, the raw numbers, but when you look at some of the PFF grades, they've been getting better. Their PFF grade 9th overall defensively. I think Roquan might have been a little beat up. Something was wrong with him early in the season. He's been posting great grades week after week. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton, the jack of all trades, Marlon Humphrey, they got some pieces. And we know this offense, they have the MVP at quarterback. The offense is prolific. So I made a bet on the Ravens. This is going to be my first official act. Like, can we make a future official, Jim?
Of course.
I want to make this one official. Or I guess as my Lions and Eagles act, because we did do the futures episode this year.
If you talked about it on the show, made it official on the show. I mean, usually we have, you need to tweet it out, but if you said it was,
I tweeted out. No, let's do that. Anything I tweeted out. That's what it's been all season. I'll tweet this one out. Ravens to win the AFC plus 310.
Ravens to win AFC plus 310. Wine time
sport. I'm thinking about it, Jim. I'm gonna have to go back and check to see if I did tweet that out because I don't even, I don't even have that on in my spreadsheet right now. So I have to go see what I did with that one.
Okay. Yeah, do it. So my concern here is Zappe starts the second half. That's the start. That's the concern for the under 41.5. So if I have now, I need to know that Dorian Thompson-Robinson is good to go. Shout out to Harold Williams, a member of We Be Pubbing, my guy Harold. What about the Browns' first half team total under 6.5? Because I just don't see them scoring a touchdown here. Now the 6.5 is not necessary. You could use a 5.5. Are they really going to score 2 field goals? Now maybe. You can get the 5.5 at plus money.
But they do have the worst kicking team in the NFL, the worst special teams, the worst field goal percentage, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, are they going to score a touchdown in the first half? I mean, this first half, I can't bet the first half under because we expect the Ravens to be going full steam ahead in the first half, slowing it down in the second half.
Yeah.
And so what do you think of the Browns' first half team total under 6.5? Now, the problem is, and I've been burnt on this play before, a crazy pick six that sort of comes out of nowhere, a fumble recovery that comes, strip sack taken to the house that comes out of nowhere. Other than that, it's not going to be a Dorian Thompson-Robinson-led drive that's going to do it.
Yeah, I think it's actually an interesting angle if you're going to be betting this game, which I don't have a lot of interest in this game in particular because of just what you said. It's 6.5 points. 5.5 if you don't want big, but I think the thought process is there because if you think about the Browns offense, if they were able to move the ball, pick up some first downs, they're not going to have any explosive plays, which means the down and distance on fourth down when they're in Ravens territory is going to be 2-down territory at this point in the season. Like they have no reason to want to sit back and kick field goals when they're chasing double digits. So I feel like it makes a lot of sense. You'll be betting against, a few fourth down conversions and a couple red zone stops at worst. I think it's a great bet, honestly. It's a good look.
And Nutflush says if you want team total under, take full game. I can't. And the reason is that if the Ravens are up 40-7, and Zappe has a lot to prove. Zappe has a lot to prove. If the Ravens pull Kyle Hamilton and some of their most important players, why wouldn't Zappe be able to put together a couple drives late in the game? Mel says, any reason to not just play the Ravens first half? No, they obviously they correlate. I don't see how the Ravens aren't up by more than 10.5 points in the first half. The Ravens have something on the line here. What's keeping you off the Ravens first half?
Just the fact that we're looking at a number, the Ravens first half, I mean, historically, it's too big of a spread. It's just too big of a number. If I had to play a full game number, it'd probably be on the Browns because we never know what the end of this game is going to look like. The back door is obviously going to be open. The defense can create turnovers. Myles Garrett is obviously continuing to play. I'd rather not play with those variables because you need to be so clean to cover that number. Whereas I wouldn't trust the Browns offense to be able to put up, points with them, because we've seen this Browns defense be competitive against this offense.
No, I'm right with you. And in a 13-3 score at the end of the first half is such a possibility. You wouldn't cash that, if you were on the Ravens first half. It's 10.5 most spots. So, a 16-6, can the Browns get 2 field goals? Again, that's a possibility here. So I can understand. I will decide between. No, I'm not. There's not. It's only the Browns first half team total under that I'm looking at. Troy's moving on the Ravens to win the AFC. And again, as fun as it is, putting in action, especially when you're running hot. I've cashed 11 of my last 12 in NHL. I feel very good about everything right now. I need to settle everything down and remember what happened 6 years ago when I just got destroyed on this week. So
yeah.
But the first half team total under is what I am looking at. So let's move on. Shout out to Big O. Says Happy New Year, Jimmy, and all the PSR family. Open 2025 in a horrific way. Lost the under in Arizona State, Texas. It was the first thing I thought of. When that went to overtime, was just my fellow under bettors here. Luke Burrow says, I've heard great arguments about the Ravens being the best team in the NFL. I guess the hard part for the Ravens will be playing on the road. There is parity in the NFL this year, but it does feel like a few teams are just a step ahead of everybody. And the Ravens are certainly in that group. Let's move on to the late game on Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We have the Cincinnati Bengals 8-8, 5-3 on the road, at the Pittsburgh Steelers 10-6, 5-2 at home, or at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Let's get the weather up here, the latest weather here in Pittsburgh for Saturday. It is cold. We have 22 Fahrenheit. It's supposed to have stopped snowing. So it's supposed to snow all day, snow showers. Again, you can't really trust this, but it's supposed to stop snowing right at kickoff or about an hour before kickoff at this point. That is the expectation. Unfortunately, I didn't talk about the Baltimore weather, which I had meant to do here. Baltimore weather, it's pretty nice. There's no snow. It's 30. It's right now at this point for the Ravens game, and I apologize we didn't talk about it then. It's 30 Fahrenheit, 12 mile per hour winds, and no snow. Let's roll here for this Bengals Steelers spot. Let's go into the line history and get into the cash flow. We'll start with this total. This total is at 48.5. It's minus 108 to the over, open minus 107 to the over. Historically, I likened the North to the AFC North to the NFC West in divisional games. Historically, I just thought they all went under. That's changed drastically this year. Very difficult to trust these defenses. From a point spread scenario, we have the Steelers at plus 1.5 at minus 106. They opened up at plus 3. So there's been a 1.5 move towards the Pittsburgh Steelers. And before we get into the statistics here, it's crucial that the expectation is the Ravens beat the Browns in the early game, and the Steelers will be playing for seeding, and it couldn't be more important. If they win, they will get the 5 seed. If they lose and the Chargers win, they will get the 6th seed. If the Steelers earn the 5th seed, they will head to Houston. That is the easiest spot on the entire playoff board. If they are on the 6th seed, they get to go to Baltimore and take the Ravens. So when you initially look at the spot and think, the Bengals would like to finish off the year, they've got momentum, finish off the year by beating the Steelers, there couldn't be more on the line for the Steelers to win this football game. And I agree with this market move towards the Steelers. And
also, in addition to that, Jim, just not only the seeding of everything, but losing 2 straight games, losing the way they have the past few weeks. They must get right. It feels like definitely the highly motivated spot for the Steelers, to be honest.
It does. It really does. There's only 25% of the tickets on the under, and to make it even more wild that the line has moved, only 7% of the cash is on the under. For the spread, 70% of the tickets and 80% of cash is on the Bengals. That line's moving away from the Bengals. And on the money line, 61% of tickets, 60% cash is on the Bengals. This market makes me want to back the Pittsburgh Steelers. The buy low opportunity, sell high opportunity makes me want to back the Pittsburgh Steelers. The motivation factor makes me want to back the Pittsburgh Steelers. Saying all this out loud, I don't see there is a possibility that I'm not on the Pittsburgh Steelers money line, as much as I don't think they're that good of a football team, and we can get into that. Bengals passing offense first at 274.6 yards per game. The rushing offense has struggled this year, even though I like Chase Brown. A lot of his yards have come out of the backfield as a receiver. They're 29th and 94.1 yards per game. Their red zone offense has been, just excellent all season long at 66.7%. 66.7%. Yes. Compare that to the horrific Steelers offense that's second last in the NFL, scoring touchdowns 46.3% of the time. Their third down offense is fifth at 47.3%. It's just an excellent offense. Their passing defense is 24th, 230 yards per game they allow through the air. Rushing defense 21st, allowing 128 yards per game through the air, on the ground. Their red zone defense is third worst in the league at 66.7%, and their third down defense is 24th, allowing conversions 42.6% of the time. So the only opportunity here for one of the most important things that I talked about here again when we started the year was I said the reason why I couldn't move on the Bengals, we talked heavily about them not rewarding their receivers. That was a big part of it. But if you guys remember, the second part was Logan Wilson played every game last year. There was no way he was going to be able to do it again. Sam Hubbard was healthy all year last year. Now he's hurt. Sheldon Rankins has been out for a long time. Their defense was extremely healthy last year. That's not the case anymore. They come in off a 30-24 overtime win over the Broncos. Bengals' first win this season against a team with a winning record. They outgained the Broncos 499 to 329. They had 7 red zone opportunities while the Broncos had just 2, and yet they need overtime to win the game. Burrow was incredible again, 39 to 49, 412 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also ran 4 times for 25 yards touchdown. He has at least 250 yards passing and 3 touchdowns in 8 straight games. That's his NFL record. T. Higgins caught 11 for 131 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did lose a fumble. He knows this is his last game in the Bengals uniform. The reason why they franchised him, they were never going to give him the big contract. Jamar Chase is going to get the extension. It's going to be massive. They have to give it to him, but they've treated him like a dick. He's caught 9 passes for under 2 yards. Gesicki caught 10 for 86 yards. Chase Brown ran 20 times for 67 yards, caught 4 for 24. Offense had 34 first downs and 4-7 in the red zone and had 24 points at the end of regulation. Held the Broncos to 4-12 on third down, 1 and 2 in the red zone. How in the world were the Broncos in this football game? There's problems with the Cincinnati Bengals team, and the more I talk about it, the more I want to fade them here. Pass rush had 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. Jermaine Pratt had an interception. And Amarius Mims left the game in the first half with a hand injury. He's listed as questionable this week. Their offensive line is not strong, and they need him at right tackle. Let's talk about the Steelers. Passing offense 25th, 196.6 yards per game. Rushing offense 10th. It's been much better than I expected this year, 130.8 yards per game. Red zone offense, we already talked about how bad it is. Their third down offense 13th, 39.8%. Passing defense 23rd. They allowed 226.9 yards per game through the air. Rushing defense 7th at 100.6 yards per game on the ground, just 100.6. Red zone defense 15th at 56.1%. Their third down defense second best in the league. They only allow conversions 33.1% of the time. They come in off their third straight loss, all by margin. 27-13 at Philadelphia, 34-17 at Baltimore, 29-10 at home to the Chiefs on Christmas Day. Now they have extra rest and prep for this one. I don't know why I'm not already on it. In their 29-10 loss to the Chiefs, Russell Wilson had 23 for 37 for 205 yards and a pick. He also ran 6 times for 55 yards touchdown. Doesn't look good. Freiermuth, you cashed with 7 catches for 60 yards. Did have the costly fumble. Najee Harris was excellent. You cashed with him as well. 13 carries for 74 yards. Caught 2 for 7. You cashed with Jaylen Warren as well. 11 carries for 71 yards. Caught 5 passes for 41 yards. Offense 8 of 16 on third down, but just 1 of 4 in the red zone. Being their Achilles heel all year. The pass rush was again nowhere to be found. And I spoke with my dad, ad nauseam for a pretty long time about the fact that you have, PFF, the experts telling us how good their pass rush is, and yet the old school statistics tell me that they're weak. Again, nowhere to be found. 0 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. They're 22nd in the league, averaging 2.3 sacks per game. They have 4 over their past 3 games. Chiefs were 3 of 10 on third down, but they allowed the Chiefs to go 4 or 5 in the red zone. Steelers money line. I should bet this. I should already be on it. Take it away, Troy. Bengals, Steelers.
I was thinking about this game for quite some time because I obviously was heavily invested in the Bengals this past week, and it was almost another atrocious beat. But as they cashed this game, I started looking ahead, like who they got next week. So I wanted to actually get back on the Bengals. But at that point, I see the Steelers, and I know that they had already taken an L this week, against the Chiefs. Obviously, they did not look good. And I started thinking exactly how we started this conversation in this handicap. Their Steelers are going to be highly motivated in this spot. Tomlin, rah-rah, at home. Right, off a couple horrendous losses, need to get right before the playoffs. There's so many things that align from a motivational standpoint for the Steelers. But then you get back into the office, you sit down at the desk, you put on the film over the past few weeks, you look at all the sentiment that I've given and I've talked about with this team. You go back a few weeks in all my handicaps, and there's just not a lot to like about this Steelers team at this moment. They're definitely on my fraudulent list. I've been fading them. Last week, I did buy them against KC because it was fraud versus fraud, in my opinion. And the reason this Steelers team is fraudulent, I know you have some opinions about their defensive metrics, and I won't write those off, but it's because of their offense, specifically the third down offense, which completely inflated their numbers in yards per play, inflated their numbers in EPA per play, and it tells me a ton about what Russell Wilson is capable of as quarterback, because he's a one-trick pony. They struggle to run the ball and generate line yards because their offensive line is terrible. Arthur Smith is clearly a bum. And I think about Arthur Smith and how that was perfect for Tomlin and how that it's connected, especially early in the season. Now they're starting to unravel because guess what? That old school frame of mind, play defense, kick field goals, play special teams, that to me is dead. Look at who's winning championships, who's winning, having deep extended playoff runs. It's not defensive coaches. To me, the Tomlin narrative, the home dog, is dead. And I know the Bengals, like you think about their motivation relative to the Steelers' motivation. They do have incentive to make the playoffs. It's not quite all there. They do have revenge in this matchup. The defense got completely embarrassed by this offense that is not very capable of being dynamic. So I'll give the Steelers the edge in the motivation category, but I look at the matchup and I still like the Bengals. We definitely get the much better quarterback. The Bengals on the road have been money makers this season, and there's just I cannot go through the metrics enough that tell me that the Steelers offense is fraudulent. So the Bengals defense is a bad defense. I'm not going to talk about how their defense is anything better than average, but the past 4 or 5 weeks, they've putting up average numbers. They held the Broncos offense, which is probably about league average to basically right at their expectation. And I don't expect the Steelers to be able to keep up offensively with the Bengals. So I'll give the matchup to the Bengals, the motivation to the Steelers. Well, what does the market have to say about this spot historically? Home dogs that close between +1 and +2 after the line moves towards them, like we see in this spot. Only 7 and 15 ATS haven't covered at all if the game is in division, and haven't covered if the line opened at 3. That completely surprises me. Then you look late in the season, in week 18 since 2022, the past 2 years of week 18, home dogs between +1 and +2 are 0-4 ATS. So I'm on the Bengals. I like it. I bet the money line at -125. I bet the -1.5 at a decent number. Sorry. I got the Bengals -1.5, -108.
That was my plan. My plan was to be on the Bengals. How could anybody in their right mind, after watching what the Steelers went through the last 3 weeks, be on the Steelers? But at this point, I'll spend some time thinking about it now. I'm not just going to bet it immediately after the show. But and again, one thing we didn't talk about, which I probably just should have mentioned, is that if the Chiefs backups beat the Broncos and the Dolphins lose on the road to the Jets, and the Bengals can still get in. We know that is a very, very tiny opportunity for the Bengals. It is too bad that the market in your database doesn't coincide with the Steelers being the bet here.
No,
because
I would definitely have been. I feel like if I would have got 2 out of 3 with the Steelers, I would have probably been on them in this case with 2 teams that have something to play for. We should expect an effort.
But I'm saying that because a team losing by 14 plus 3 weeks in a row against the elite teams in the NFL with everything to gain by getting a chance to play the Texans instead of going to Baltimore is going to be too good for me to pass up. So I don't see any way around going heads up with you on this one. I was initially on the Bengals, like the public. We've talked often about how the public is very successful late in the year. There's no reason to be concerned when you're on the public. And as we talked about, the double results cashing at a very high margin. But I am going to be – I don't see any way I could not be on the Steelers here. It's just the buy low opportunity is too glorious, in my opinion. And I did the flip while capping this game because I was initially going to be on the Bengals as you are. Dougie Wise says he sees Jimmy's angle, but he doesn't trust Russell Wilson. Look, there's no question about who the best quarterback on the field is. I mean, there's not. Look, Burrow's
the more film that comes out on him under Tomlin or under Arthur Smith, however you want to put it, in Pittsburgh, dude's seeing ghosts. He's having problems. He looks like a rookie.
Yeah, but this is just the exact defense I want them to go up against. This
I would be absolutely stunned if they put up better than 5.5 yards per play. Stunned.
Yeah, I don't think they need over 5.5. I think they just need over 5. But I hear you, and it's just part of the fun going. We don't always have to agree, although the ROI goes up when we do. Troy on the Bengals money line and the -1.5, -108. I plan on being on the Steelers money line, but I'm certainly going to need to sit with it a little longer after hearing Troy's thoughts on it. Let's roll on that Saturday action. We move on to Sunday, January 5th, 1 p.m. Eastern. We have the Carolina Panthers 4-12, 1-6 on the road. The Atlanta Falcons 8-8, 4-4 at home. We're at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. This line is very interesting. I was, been watching it here for a couple days. Surprised that it's not moving towards the Falcons. They opened up -8 at -110. They're now -8 at -108. This line was moving towards them, which made sense to me. This was a -118, yesterday morning, early at around 6 in the morning. So there was buyback towards the Panthers, which I find hard to believe. This total is at 47.5. It's juiced to the over. You do see some 48s at pick'ems. There has been an 11-cent move towards the over. When we get to the cash flow for the Falcons spot, we have that's the money line. I was going to say it looks a little messed up. We have 75% of tickets, 80% of cash on the Falcons. And on the total, we have 71% of tickets and 72% cash on the over. And we see the market moving quite heavily in that direction. I sort of put this game together in my head, and we'll talk about if this makes sense. I'll go over the situation here in a second. Not flush. Well, I can just do it right away. I should probably just do it before the stats. So the Falcons must win against the Panthers, and the Buccaneers must lose against the Saints for the Falcons to win the NFC South. Atlanta can get in the postseason only as the number 4 seed. If the Falcons win the NFC South, they would host either the Vikings or the Lions in the wild card round and lose badly. The Falcons are eliminated from the postseason with a loss or a Bucs victory on Sunday. So the way I see this, Troy, is, and the reason why I talked about the Falcons' first half and the double result, even though it was -150 and not the full game, is because my expectation is they're going to come out guns a-blazing. And about 25 minutes into the game, not playing time, but actual real minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. They're going to look up at the scoreboard and they're going to see that the Bucs are beating up on the Saints. And that's my concern about being on them full game. And that's why I want them early. At what point do you think they're going to look up at the scoreboard and see the Buccaneers up 17-0 and go, oh, our season's over? And that's, that is the tricky part of this cap for me. So that means that I can't bet a full game because I can't pretend that doesn't exist. I mean, then at that point, you want first quarter?
It makes me think about the Lions, and I feel like a mistake that I made with the Lions is I expected the first quarter, first half to be more of the smash spot and the 49ers playing catch up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know. It was a different situation, obviously, but it just makes me think of that, Jim.
So, and Mikey Money says fading must-win teams 130 and 55. I imagine that's against the spread, and for how long? I'd be curious, Mikey, to hear how long that.
And what weeks does that cover?
Yeah, well, it must be. Yeah, is that just week 18? If you could add to that, it'd be very, very interesting. I mean, it's already interesting, but we need a little more information, Mikey. And thank you for sharing with us. So let's roll here with the Panthers. Passing offense 31st, 182.4 yards per game. Rushing offense 20th, 107.7. Now that's ridiculous because Chuba Hubbard is done for the year. And if you watch Raheem Blackshear, I mean, no offense to him, but he just can't get the job done. He's not a RB1. So their red zone offense is 11 to 59.1%, but without Chuba Hubbard being an option, it's much worse. Their third down offense now 30th in the league, but it's worse than that since 1980, past week 16. Interesting. So fading must-win teams has been very lucrative against the spread. So pass defense 16th. They allow 219.4 yards per game. We know the rush defense worse than the NFL. We talk about it week after week. They allow 176.9 yards per game. Red zone defense is 26th. They allow 64.8% of the time touchdowns, and their third down defense last in the league at 49.3%. So start with Carolina. Of course, we just give Carolina stats. So they're slotted to draft 6th overall this year. They come in off a pitiful 48-14 loss at Tampa, outgained 551 to 204, one red zone drive while the Bucs had 8. Bryce Young was 15 of 28 for 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Adam Thielen was a bet that Troy made on over 55.5 receiving yards, went for 110 and 2 touchdowns. Chuba Hubbard done for the season with a knee injury. It won't require surgery. The Panthers' run game was inept. Blackshear ran 8 times for 20 yards. The Bucs sacked Young 5 times. Carolina on the game had 39 yards rushing. The offense put up 13 first downs, 2 and 9 on third down. With Josie Jewell and J.C. Horn out of the lineup, amongst others, the defense just looks atrocious. They allowed the Bucs to go 10 of 14 on third down and 5 of 8 in the red zone. The pass rush finished with 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. Let's talk about the Falcons here. Their passing offense 8th in the league, 234.9 yards per game. Rushing offense 12th, 124.5. Red zone offense 24th, 52.1% of the time. They score touchdowns. Their third down offense 20th. They allow conversion, or they get conversions 37.4% of the time. Their passing defense is 19th. They allow 221.7 yards per game through the air, and the rushing defense 14th, 118.5. Raheem Morris is supposed to be defensive coach. This defense has been horrific all year long. Red zone defense 25th. Now their pass rushes come alive, but red zone defense 25th. They allow touchdowns 62.8% of the time. Their third down defense, third worst in the league, allowing conversions 44.5% of the time. The Falcons have looked good with Michael Penix at quarterback and now must win here at home against the lowly Panthers to have any hope of making the playoffs, coming off the 30-24 overtime loss to the Commanders. And, I don't want to dwell on this because I know it was a very costly decisions by Morris not to call the timeout, but I was beside myself. If let's say my son's 10 years old and we're playing Madden and he wouldn't call a timeout with 31 seconds, I would be like, what? I would think less of him. Now imagine being the coach of an NFL football team and not understanding the situation. He can't be my coach. I have to fire him. I have to fire him at the end of the year. I have to fire him with sitting on Penix for so long, while Cousins looked horrific. Now, Penix hasn't looked spectacular, but he certainly looked like he's got a ton of promise. 19 of 35 for 223 yards, touchdown and pick. Also fumbled twice. Was fortunate not to lose either. Drake London caught 7 for 106 yards, 7 catches now for under 6 yards. So he reaches 1,000 for the first time. Bijan Robinson ran 17 times for 90 yards, 2 touchdowns, caught 3 for 8 yards. Offense was 2 of 10 on third down, but a perfect 3 for 3 in the red zone to show Penix's poise. They allowed the Commanders to go 9 of 16 on third down and fourth down and 4 of 6 in the red zone. The pass rush should be much better of late, finishing with 5 sacks. They have 12 over the last 3 games, but it's been a problem all year. Caden Ellis had an interception. The Commanders ran for 216 yards against the Falcons. And that's the biggest point for me. The Panthers are incapable of doing that. So can we trust the Falcons to care? Because if the Panthers can't run the ball on the Falcons, and Penix has something to prove here, I mean, why don't the Falcons just smash and grab, Troy? Take it away for us, Panthers, Falcons at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah, I find this one, I mean, this is a little bit difficult for me because, I've liked to back the Panthers throughout the season, especially late in the season. I backed both these teams, actually, in Week 17, where I already said, I talked about a pre-show. Falcons ripped the heart right out of my chest. The Panthers got absolutely pummeled by the Bucs. And the Falcons, you can't help but question where their mind is at, with well, first of all, I think Penix is going to be a great starting quarterback. I talked about him a few times during the show throughout the year. I really have high hopes for him if he can remain healthy. The defense definitely needs some work, but they have some good pieces. They need to fire Jimmy Lake, who does not add any type of layers to the defense. I know they're finally starting to generate some pass rush. But I just question where their mind is at, after watching what happened with the coaching situation. The season literally just slipped away out of their hands. At one point, I'm not sure what the odds were, but I'm sure they were pretty astronomical for them to make the playoffs. And here we are, backs against the wall, must-win spot. And I'm kind of agreeing with you, Jim. The Panthers, obviously, Bryce Young, he bought himself another year. The defense needs a complete overhaul. This is going to be a rebuild for this defense. So I'm sure they're going to allocate a lot of assets to their defense in the offseason. I heard some people talking about rushing sentiment for the Atlanta running backs. Well, I think this is one of those situations like I did with the Steelers, where I'll probably play both running backs to go over the rushing prop, both Algier and Bijan, maybe an alt line, so I get plus money on both sides. I think they both go over. Last time these two teams played, they combined for 200-plus yards. And it was like, Bijan went for 110 and Algier went for 95. So I'm sure there's a lot of room for rushing props for the Atlanta Falcons. And you look historically at this market. When I first looked, I thought I was going to find some Panther spots because I was kind of looking to back the Panthers, honestly, because I was questioning where the Falcons' minds would be. But, you get our guy Penix at home in a controlled environment. Obviously, the more motivated team in the spot and a soft defense for Penix to attack with a rushing game that's going to be, it's going to be there. Man, let's look towards the Falcons. And the database says to back the Falcons. Home favorites between 7 and 10 after Week 14 or later are 5-1 ATS, 5-0 straight up. 2 wins by 12, 2 by 17, 1 by 8. I also started looking at this money line price at minus whatever it is, 420, 410, whatever it is right now, over 400. You don't see it very often. So when you see these home favorites between, between 7 and 10, so 7.5 to 9.5, with a money line price above 400, 2-0 straight up, absolute blowout situations. This market definitely profiles well for the Falcons, to be honest. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this game yet. I don't think I'm in any rush to bet it. I'm going to see how the market responds. I might have Falcons money line parlayed with, Algier rushing prop. I'll probably play it a few different ways, not just straight up on the spread, but we shall see.
So what happens when they look up and they see it's 17-0 Tampa? That's the question. That's, to me, the most important question in the game. And that's why I didn't already bet it. I wanted to talk it out. What do you think happens to, because we know Penix will keep fighting. We know he's got a ton to prove. What about everybody else?
We know the offense still will be able to turn around and hand the ball off most likely and have some success. I actually do not think that that's going to matter very much in game.
Really? Even at halftime?
Right. I don't think so. I think that would be a rallying point, especially if they're having a good first half. I don't think they come out and let down because they see that score. If anything, you'd be pissed off. I would feel more pissed off in the moment than I would, if I had a full week to sit down and like, oh shit, our season's done. But if I'm having a great game, We expect the Falcons to be winning at half. I don't think it's going to be a letdown after that. I'm just trying to put myself in that situation.
No, that's why I ask you. All-American wide receiver. I mean, I can't answer that question. Big O says he agrees with you. Says I think they keep playing hard. I mean, you've been in that situation, I'm sure, where you
actually, I have been. It's not necessarily the same, but at halftime, I seen my dad had sent me a text when I was in the locker room, and Taylor University had won, and we are now out of the playoffs. It's my junior year, and we ended up making a comeback in the game. We were losing in a must-win spot. We were definitely favorites in the situation, and we fucking lost. But we didn't stop fighting. We made a comeback, but we should have. We covered the live spread, I guess.
I think the issue for me is I just don't want to have 3 units on this football game. I don't want to be sitting here with that much invested. First half, full game, double result. I would prefer double result in Falcons first half.
What is that double result?
It was minus 150 when I looked earlier, which I'm okay with. Some of these double results are so easy to cash. Now, I did lose the Colts at minus 140, but that was a little different just because there was a quarterback switch.
So what about doing something along the lines of money line Algier rushing prop, money line Bijan rushing prop?
Yeah, I don't want to get too cut. I'm
not saying to bet it for you. I know your style's a little different. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that type of action.
It makes sense. I think that it makes sense to use a spot like that as an anchor for certain spots. And I think I need to open up that a little more. I've changed the way I gamble on football this year working with you. I'm being enlightened, and I feel like I'm evolving. So I think it's something that can be used. I expect, though, to be on the Falcons first half and the double result here as soon as possible. That is my expectation, and not to have 3 units on it, even though it would be likely for them to follow through and take care of the football game. And Troy will be moving on the Falcons in some capacity, and you just have to follow at Troy Torrence 11 to see what that is. Is that the situation at this point?
That's the situation at this point. Yes, I'm not ready to move yet.
Let's roll on. 1 p.m. Eastern. Washington Commanders 11-5, 4-3 on the road. Dallas Cowboys 7-9, 2-6 at home. We're at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Let's get into the line history here for this one. This total is at 44, minus 114 to the under. Opened up at under 44, minus 109. So we've had 5 cents of movement towards the under. On the point spread, we have the Cowboys plus 4.5 with no vig. They opened up plus 3. And it's just been moving towards Washington pretty briskly. We get to the cash flow here. Here we go. When we get to the cash flow, we have 26% of the tickets on the under and 77% of the cash. Clearly sharp action on the under. Then we have 73% of the tickets and 86% cash on the Washington Commanders. Let's roll here. So we'll start with the only important part of this is the Commanders are going to the postseason. They're either the NFC's number 6 or 7 seed. They can get the 6 seed if they defeat the Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers lose to the Chicago Bears. We know that that's not going to happen. But, it's possible. If they're the 6th seed, they would play the Rams or the Buccaneers, which would be much, much more enjoyable for them than to head to Philadelphia to play the Eagles, which is what the 7th seed would do. Let's talk about the Commanders' passing offense, 16th, 219.3 yards per game, rushing offense, 3rd, 156.6. God, Jaden Daniels is spectacular. Red zone offense, 6th in the league, 61.8% of the time they score touchdowns. And their third down offense is also 6th. They convert 45.6% of the time. Passing defense, 3rd. They allow just 187.1 yards per game through the air. And their rush defense, 28th, allowing 136.7. Red zone defense, 27th. They allow touchdowns 66% of the time. And their third down defense is 12th. They allow conversions just 37.9% of the time. The defense as a whole has been quite a bit better than I expected them to be, judging by their roster. I know Dan Quinn's a defensive coach, but their roster just looked pretty weak in that regard. The Commanders coming off 30-24 overtime victory at home over the Falcons. Jaden Daniels was spectacular. I mean, he's just So much poise. 24-36 for 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Ran 16 times for a career high 127 yards. 30 combined touchdowns for Daniels. That ties Russell Wilson for the third most by a rookie quarterback in NFL history, and he passed Robert Griffin for the most yards rushing by a rookie quarterback with 864. 216 yards the Commanders combined to run for. Allowed them to dominate time of possession, 41-32 to 25-46. Olamide Zaccheaus had 8 catches for 85 yards and touchdown. He certainly looks to be coming around. And the one thing that the roster did perfectly was mix the veterans with the youth. Because Zach Ertz, knowing that this is his last opportunity or maybe he comes back next year, but he's playing as if it's his last game every time out there. 6 catches, 72 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Ertz became the 9th tight end in NFL history to eclipse 8,000 yards receiving. Offense stepped up with the game on the line. Commanders went 9-16 on 3rd and 4th down and 4 of 6 in the red zone. Now, I blame the Falcons' weak defense for that more, but also Jaden Daniels just has so much poise. The defense held the Falcons to 2 of 10 on 3rd down, but they allowed them to go perfect 3 of 3 in the red zone. Pass rush was quiet, which we're used to. 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. Quan Martin had a pick. And they lost their starting center, Tyler Biadasz, to a left ankle injury. In his absence, Michael Dieter took over at center. Also, right tackle Cornelius Lucas filled in for injured starter Andrew Wiley. Wiley inactive with a groin injury. And then Cornelius Lucas left with a groin injury. So it's a very, very important spot to keep an eye on. So that's right tackle. So now you could be going to your 3rd string, and you might want to go to your 3rd string because there's not that much on the line, because it's unlikely that the Packers lose to the Bears, but it's all possible. Let's talk about these Cowboys. Passing offense 11th, 227.1 yards per game. Rushing offense 27th at 97.2. Red zone offense 27th. They score touchdowns 50% of the time. Their 3rd down offense 25th. They convert 36.5% of the time. It's a weak offense, especially with CeeDee Lamb done for the year. Passing defense 20th. They allow 222 yards per game through the air. The rush defense 29th, allowing 138.6. Their red zone defense has been the worst in the NFL all season long. They allow touchdowns 73.6% of the time. Their 3rd down defense is 6th. They allow conversion 35.9% of the time. Cowboys coming off an extremely ugly 41-7 loss at Philadelphia, beaten badly by a team that was using their 2nd string quarterback, Kenny Pickett, till he left with a rib injury, and 3rd stringer Tanner McKee came in. They weren't beaten that bad statistically in that football game, but they lost the turnover battle 4-0, and it just doomed them. Cooper Rush was 15-20 for 147 yards, touchdown, 2 picks. Brandon Cooks led receivers with 4 catches, 52 yards. Rico Dowdle, another big game. He's had a great month and a half, except for that one game where he did nothing. But he's, a bunch of 100-yard games. Ran 23 times for 104 yards. Also lost a fumble. 6 of 14 on 3rd down, 1 of 2 in the red zone. Eagles went 6 of 13 on 3rd down, 3 of 5 in the red zone. But the pass rush for the Cowboys was completely invisible. And that's when I had a policeman coaching my hockey team named Harry Story when I was like 12 or something. And he used to yell at us. He'd yell, "You gotta wanna." He would yell it in our face. "You gotta wanna. You gotta wanna." He'd always hammer it at us. And this pass rush has skill. You got Micah back there. 0 sacks, 1 quarterback hit. They gave up and didn't try. Safety Donovan Wilson suffered a knee injury, so he's listed questionable. He may not be able to go. So the question here is, and Newcore says, why would Washington even care about this game? Better yet, why would I? Daniel's not playing here. Jaden Daniels is expected to be playing, as far as I know. Have you heard anything different than this?
I personally, looking at the line, I was going to try to make a similar case.
That Jaden Daniels is not playing.
Not that he's not playing, but that there's skepticism about him playing.
So that was not anything I uncovered here.
Don't you think this line would be a little bit more inflated up to the 6 if Jaden Daniels was certainly in? Now the 4.5. This is just like we're looking at a 5.5 right now. These money line prices, this is a 5.5 essentially. I don't know. To me, something doesn't. I wasn't going to make the case that he's certainly out, but I don't know. It just seems a little short.
I am surprised to hear that. That wasn't part of my cap here, it really wasn't. So that's interesting. I've set this one up for what I wanted to say. And the only thing I wanted to add was it seems like these teams in week 18 that are done try when they're at home. And we saw the Giants do that when they were at home last week. They seem to try in their final home game. I expect the Cowboys to try in this football game. Yeah. I really do. Take it away, though, Troy. Commanders, Cowboys.
Yeah, something I wanted to touch on with Mika and with anybody going up against the Eagles and that offensive line, especially with the way Lane Johnson's playing. Pass rushes are just not going to look very good in that situation. Lane Johnson is an absolute anchor. Definitely the best pass blocker I've ever watched in the past 3 years, as I've been watching every single game, between Sunday and Monday. So, but I think that the Commanders, I guess we've already talked about it a little bit. I'm not sure that this line is accounting for Jay Daniels being in 100% of the time. I think there's a little bit of leverage, a little bit of give on this line where they're a little bit uncertain. And I wouldn't want to play the Eagles either. But at the same time, we don't. I don't think that the Packers are going to lose to the Chicago Bears this week. So I think they kind of control that. And if I was the Commanders head coach at this point, anybody who has any type of injury, I would just be trying to put them to rest. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a little bit too speculative, but that's kind of how my thought process is right now. And this Commanders team, generally speaking, I mean, this 4.5 looks appetizing in this spot if they have any type of motivation to play. But you look at what they've done the past few weeks. I know they have some wins, but they're absolutely lucky to have won and covered those games. I cannot wait to fade this Commanders team in the wild card round. I think Jay Daniels has been incredible, but if you look at, again, you look at down-to-down EPA, you look at fourth down EPA, this is the number one team in the NFL in fourth down conversion rate. You look at the EPA added by those fourth downs, and it's insane. That's where a lot of their offense is coming, especially late in the season here. I mean, all of it, I don't know what they've been the past 2-3 weeks. I mean, I don't know if they've missed a fourth down conversion, and it's because of Jay Daniels' mobility. So I don't know if that's really something you could fully account for, because he's definitely incredible what he's able to do in the pocket with his legs. He misses throws just like all the other rookie quarterbacks, but he is really good at feeling the pressure, evading the pressure, getting out of the pocket, knowing when to run. Really impressive. And I talked about it with the Steelers on third down. Well, this is fourth down for the Commanders. And the Cowboys, this is just a team I just can't get right. I'm like Jared TG in the chat. Ever since that miraculous cover by Cincinnati and Dallas, it's just like it's hard for me to want to get involved. I got involved last week. They got smacked. I feel like they deserve a little bit better. There's a few plays, 4 or 5 plays. Mika said it himself, where they lost the game and things unraveled from there. And that's what a team that'll lean on you like the Eagles do, that could happen. The Commanders can't lean in that same way. The only way I'm betting this game is probably with the Cowboys, but I won't have action in this game. I'll just be waiting for the Commanders in round 1.
See, I was interested in the Cowboys. I just don't see a situation where Jaden Daniels doesn't start. The only possibility that I would see is, Packers up 28-3 at halftime, and Jaden's pulled then for the second half, which appealed to me towards the Cowboys, but I saw this line moving so briskly towards the Commanders that didn't really make sense. Can you have any explanation for the lack of a pass rush and a lack of a fight in the Cowboys when they lose 41-7 in Philadelphia? And it's sort of two-pronged. Then do you see them fighting in this last home game, of the season?
Yeah, I think they fought at home every time they've played at home recently. I think the lack of the pass rush, like I said, Lane Johnson creates an absolute problem, because you can leave him on an island against any pass rusher in the game, and he holds his own. He's proven to be able to do that. But the lack of effort, I feel like things just started to unravel pretty damn quick. I had another point on that, Jim, but I'm kind of losing my train of thought. But yeah, things began to unravel with this game. So, and a team like the Eagles that could stifle you defensively, and think about Cooper Rush's history as a starter in this league, as a backup starter. He's been great, except against one team. It's the Eagles. and Vic Fangio, and obviously creates problems. And no CD Lamb. Do you want to back a Cowboys team without CD Lamb? We've seen one game now without CD, right? And it's looked awful. Like we want to. Yeah, this is not a game I'm going to be betting on.
This is a game that appeals to me. It does appeal to me. There's our guy Nunya in the house, 1 week away from securing his title. It's the Cappers Contest champion, Pub Sports Radio. What a season you put together, Nunya. I've loved watching it, man. Great work. And get it home. Come home with it. Well, I find the Cowboys appealing here. And, now that Nuke has brought it to our attention, it didn't really occur to me. But there was one hit that Jaden Daniels took. And I think we all saw. I can't remember who exactly, but one hit he took right to the ribs. He was wincing. He was down. There was one hit that he took that it looked. And Nupflashan saying that the rush will go to Cooks all game long. So Harold Willis says he'll probably take Commanders first half. This whole spot to me was a Cowboys or nothing. Was I going to get to the Cowboys or leave it alone? And I still think that now I find it very interesting that Nuke thought of that, and I'm surprised that it didn't occur to me. But if the Packers are up big on the Bears, why would you send Daniels out there in the second half? Interesting. I'm interested in the Cowboys. I'm not going to move on them tonight. Ruche says Washington owns the tiebreaker with Green Bay, so if Washington doesn't go to Philly, Daniels should play.
How does that work? I thought if the Packers win, the Commanders are going to Philly.
Set and done. It's set. The only way is that the Packers have to lose to the Chicago Bears. That's it. Clean. Okay. Let's roll on to those Green Bay Packers. 1 p.m. Eastern. Chicago Bears 4-12, 0-7 on the road at the Green Bay Packers. 11-5, 6-2 at home. We're at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It is 17 Fahrenheit at kickoff. 10-mile-per-hour winds, mostly cloudy, and there's 10% chance of precipitation throughout the day. There are snow showers at night, so there could be snow showers during this game. It's something that you want to keep an eye on. Let's get into the line history here in the cash flow and roll. So from a line history standpoint, Green Bay minus 10 at minus 112. They opened up at 8.5 and it's moved to 10. The line moving, Britain looks like a 10.5 is forthcoming. From a total standpoint here, we have a 41.5 minus 111 to the under. This opened up 40.5, so we've gone up a half point, but it is juiced towards the under. When we get to the cash flow here for this one, we have 82% of tickets, 84% of cash on the Packers. We've already heard Troy's numbers of teams favorite between 7 and 10 at home. Here's that situation again, and it looks like it's going to move right through the 10. 82% of tickets, 76% cash on the over, and it's moved a point towards the over. We'll start with the Bears. Passing offense 29th, 184.1 yards per game through the air. Rushing offense 25th, 103.2. The idea that they thought DeAndre Swift was the right running back for this football team is astonishing. Red zone offense 7th. They scored touchdown 61.1% of the time. Third down offense 31st, second worst in the league. They only convert 31.8% of the time. Passing defense 18th. They allowed 220.1 yards per game through the air, while the rush defense 27th, allowing 133.4 yards per game through on the ground. Red zone defense has been strong all year. Third in the league, 46.7% of the time. They allow touchdowns. Their third down defense 13th, allowing conversions 37.9% of the time. So the Packers are headed to the postseason as a wild card team, either the 6th seed or the 7th seed. So if they beat the Chicago Bears and Washington beats Dallas, Packers have the number 6 seed. So they have to win. That's all that has to happen. Packers would open wild card weekend either against the Rams or the Buccaneers and likely be favorites. Maybe not against the Rams. Packers remain in the 7th. If they remain 7th spot, obviously they have to head to Philadelphia for round 1. Bears coming off extra rest and prep after losing their 10th straight game, an ugly 6-3 home loss to the Seahawks last Thursday. It's too bad. I was at the perfect bar for the game with Sonny Dollywall. You know, we have our kids there running around. We have the TV set up. We have 4 basketball games here, the football game in full. Shout out to Game Changers, Sherman Oaks Los Angeles, the place fucking dope, man. Chicago 0-4 since Thomas Brown replaced Matt Eberflus. Please remember, you hear too many people talking about the new coach bump. Oh, it does not work in football. It's too complicated of a sport. If a team fires their coach, they're completely dead in the water, and they're likely to lose out. Offense put up 179 yards, 3.1 per play. Caleb Williams was 16 of 28. 16 of 28 for 122 yards and interception. He also ran 5 times for 37 yards. The interception, though, last play of the game ended Williams' NFL rookie record string of passes without an interception at 353. He continues to get terrible protection from his offensive line. His NFL-leading total of 67 sacks broke the Bears' record back in 2004. They had 4 quarterbacks. It's just Williams taking all these hits. DJ Moore led receivers with 6 catches for 54 yards. DeAndre Swift ran 12 times for 53 yards, caught 4 for 28. 5 of 15 on third down, failed in their only red zone attempt. The defense did their best to keep them in it. Held the Seahawks to 5 of 13 on third down, 0-1 the red zone. Pass rush finished with 3 sacks and 7 quarterback hits. I lost it in the bar when the Seahawks kicked that field goal to cover the first half, knowing that the double result was going to come through. I was very, very pumped up. And I paid for the -3. I paid -130 for the -3. That's another thing that you've kind of inspired me towards. I'll pay for the -3 if I have the double result at plus money. Right? And that's going to change. I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. If it's -130, -135, even -140. Because this way, they win by a field goal. Let's say they win in overtime. You push, and then you have the double result in play.
I know for a fact that most markets, if you buy to the 3, you're in great shape if you're getting -130. Great shape.
Yeah, it's eye-opening and helpful, and I'll be doing it for the rest of my life. Let's talk about the Packers. Passing offense, 12th in the league, 226.1 yards per game. Rushing offense, 5th at 144.6. Red zone offense, 9th. They score touchdowns 60.6% of the time. Their third down offense, 12th at 40%. Very good team. Very good team. Passing defense, 17th. Now, the defense is not as strong as their offense. Passing defense, 17th. They allow 219.8 yards per game through the air. Rush defense, 6th. They allow 100.4 yards per game on the ground. Red zone defense is 18th. They allow touchdowns 59.2% of the time. Their third down defense, 10th. They allow conversions just 36.6% of the time. They're coming off a 27-25 loss at Minnesota. The Packers are 0-5 against the top 3 teams in the NFC. When they're not playing them, I don't know who beats them. The best teams in the league will beat them, but just the best teams. They were swept by the Lions. They lost the opener in Brazil to the Eagles and swept by the Vikings. Now, the score flattered the Packers. The Vikings were up 27-12 going to the 4th and in complete control. Reichert missed 2 field goals. When the ass clown he is, he's going to cost the Vikings badly. And they're used to getting paying the cost for weak field goal kickers. The Vikings outgained the Packers 441 to 271. Jordan Love was 19 of 30 for 185 yards touchdown. Dubs led receivers with 7 catches, 58 yards. Josh Jacobs ran 17 times for 69 yards and touchdown. He also lost a fumble. It is so clear when Christian Watson isn't stretching defenses. He was inactive. It hurts them badly. Also, Jair Alexander missed his 6th straight game. You had Quay Walker missing his 2nd straight game. And
Alexander's out for the year.
Their defense is a problem. Josh Jacobs ran 17 times for 69 yards touchdown. He also lost a fumble. Speaking of Watson stretching defenses, when Watson goes all go, when 3 go all go, who gets the pass out of the backfield? Jacobs. When there's no Christian Watson and nobody's stretching defenses, how many catches did Josh Jacobs make? 0. Packers were 8 of 14 on third down, 3 of 4 in the red zone. So those are great numbers. But they averaged 4.8 yards per play. Defense couldn't get stops. Vikings put up 6.3 yards per play, 6 of 12 on third down, 2 of 4 in the red zone. Pass rush was quiet, sacked 4 quarterback hits. Carrington and Valentine had an interception. And free safety, now backups. 2 backups. Free safety Zane Anderson and defensive end Brenton Cox are both in concussion protocol right now, so keep an eye on that. Take it away for us here, Troy. Bears, Packers.
I don't have much to add to this game, but I want to say this too. The markets are a little bit different with this one and the last one. I should have specified more. I was saying between 7 and 10, so I was really saying 7 and greater than or equal to 7.5, 9.5.
Okay.
When you get past 10 and the market's moving towards the home team, historically it gets through the 10, 10.5. It keeps going. Usually, historically, in division late in the season, that's bad. That's one of those spots where the market might have moved a little bit too far historically, because these numbers are very sharp around this range. You see a lot of 12, 11, 10, 8-point finishes. So just something to keep in mind. We know the Packers don't want to play the Eagles. They're going to be playing hard to win this game. You bring up a great point with Christian Watson. That's a great point, X's and O's, that you need to keep in mind, especially heading into the postseason. When he's off the field, it makes a drastic difference. Really good point there, Jim. I think that winning this game is definitely reasonable. Covering this game, I don't want to go against my database in this situation, but there's no chance I'm backing the Bears. It's week 18. The offense is dead. The defense is dead. The coaching is dead. Basically, you could write this entire season off at this point. We need to overhaul. I mean, in Chicago. So we'll see what happens in the offseason. But Caleb Williams, my problem with Caleb Williams when I'm watching him play is he shows those glimpses of glory, but it's really for no rhyme or reason. There's no type of consistency. It's not like we're seeing progress made by this rookie quarterback like we have seen with Bo Nix, Drake May, and some of these other quarterbacks. They're progressively getting better and doing things that they weren't doing the week before. You don't see that with Caleb. You'll see the glimpses of glory, but there's no consistency. Now I'm starting to think about how I'm going to get down on a 10-point teaser with the Falcons, the Packers, and potentially one other team. So we'll see. We'll see what I come up with there. But it might be by the end of the show, I might have a 3-leg, 6-point teaser. 3-leg, 10-point teaser minus 120.
Interesting. So I think going back to the Washington spot, if they beat the Cowboys on Sunday, they get the 6th seed. I thought that if both teams win, that wasn't the case.
Then we are definitely seeing. We're definitely going to see Shane
Daniels in for the whole thing.
If that's the case, I thought it was the other way around.
No, all they have to do is beat the Dallas Cowboys. The only way that Green Bay can get that seed. Yeah, Rushi is right. So here again, sorry, I didn't say so. Washington gets the higher seed if it beats the Dallas Cowboys, or the Packers lose to the Bears. So that's why this line is moving towards so briskly towards the Cowboys.
Towards the Commanders.
Oh, excuse me, towards the Commanders. Sorry. So that was my fault. So that's why it's just moving so quickly. So that whole idea of the Cowboys are no bet doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Mac, I kind of agree with that in some way, shape, or form. But I think when you're, especially with a team like the Commanders, worrying about having to go back in division and play the Eagles 3 times, yeah, that might be one of the rare situations where seeding does play a huge motivator. But that's all objective, That's objective talk. We're talking.
So sorry, it's too much. It can't be so extensive at this point. But so back to the Packers, they need a win against the Bears. Victory on Sunday against the Bears, and the Washington Commanders' loss is the only way they get the 6th seed. Which means the Commanders are full steam ahead. That's why the line's moving to the Commanders. Before we move on, Jose, to the next game, does that make you then want to move on the Commanders against the Cowboys?
No, it doesn't. I think Commanders are a one-way ticket. You only want to bet against them at this point.
Interesting. Okay. Luke Bro says, in his opinion, they're both motivated to win. He's happy to win them both in a money line parlay. So this is why the show's so important. And I have it written down that way, but I guess I just read it wrong, or trying to do look up and read it. So that is the case here. So that is the case. The Commanders hold the destiny in their own hands. The opportunity not to play against the Eagles. They just have to defeat the Cowboys. How do they not do it then? How much can the Cowboys fight back?
I don't think the Commanders. I don't think they're that good. But
all right. So then
I'm not looking to lay a price that seems short. Like the price still seems short to me.
The opening up at 3 is nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely nuts.
Ridiculous.
But then I do think that Rick J probably has the right idea with backing the Packers first half. All right. So important. Well, there's no way I can move on Cowboys, obviously, and then I just don't see where now it's a tricky spot with Dallas because they look so horrific. Okay, so that was important to work out, and thank you guys in the chat for making sure that we had clarity on the situation. Okay, let's roll on. 1 p.m. Eastern, Houston Texans 9-7, 4-4 on the road at Tennessee Titans 3-13, 1-6 at home. We're at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. We don't need to spend too much time on some of these games. This would be one of them, but there's money to be made here. The weather at kickoff for this is that it's actually snowing earlier in the morning. So it's snow all morning, and then it turns into rain, and it will be raining, light rain. It'll be raining, but it's full rain supposedly right after the game, and 17-mile-per-hour winds. So will that come earlier? The wind just gets stronger and stronger as the day goes on. At 5 in the morning in Nashville, the wind is 6 miles per hour. Then 8 miles per hour, 12 miles per hour, 16 miles per hour right in the middle of this football game. So there will be some windy conditions here. Let's get into the line history for this one. From a line history standpoint, we have the total at 38.5. This has climbed up from 36.5. So we've got a 2-point move to the over, and it's still juiced to the over. From a point spread scenario here, we have the Tennessee +1 at -112. Now, this opened up with a Tennessee -5, and it's dropped all the way down to Tennessee +1. Pretty wild movement. We know Houston has nothing to play for, but very, very wild movement.
Hey, Jimmy, do you know what the Texans team total, the win total over was prior to the season? Was it 9.5?
No, it was higher than that because the market was so heavy on them to win the division. I can get it for you. I don't have it here, but it was
okay. If it wasn't 9.5, then that's all I need to know.
But I'll double check that because I just remember thinking that it was too high, that the market was too high on them, but I was still afraid to bet the under, but I'll go on. Robert Franklin says Texans moneyline starters will play for the Texans. Let's get into the cash flow here for this spot. We have 87% of tickets, 87% of cash on the over, and 88% of tickets, 75% cash on the Texans on the spread. And then on the money line, we have 50-50, but 85% of the cash on the Texans here. It's a tricky spot. You have Texans with nothing to play for, locked in as the 4th seed. But good God, does this team need some positivity after their low point in the season. It's not the right time for the low point in the season. Beaten badly in every phase of the game. Let's talk about the Texans. Passing offense 19th, 209.9 yards per game. Rushing offense 21st, 106.4 yards per game. Red zone offense 26th, 50.9% of the time they score touchdowns. Third down offense 19th, 37.4% of the time they convert. Passing defense is 6th, 199.3 yards per game through the air, while the rush defense 12th. They allow 115.8 on the ground. Red zone defense is 30th, They allow touchdowns 66.7% of the time. It's poor. And their third down defense is 36.1% of the time. So, I said this, and my dad is much harsher person than I am. And he thought I was being way too harsh on CJ Stroud, crying, bawling when Tank Dell got hurt, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And so I just, this is the point. And CJ Stroud seems like a real quality guy, real nice man. But he didn't once say, we're going to go win this for Tank. We're going to go out there and win this. No, he didn't. He talked about how much it hurt him seeing his best friend have a season-ending injury. And I tell you what, I don't want my quarterback to be like that. And I'm being too harsh. Yeah, sure. But
I mean, it's a little harsh. It's a little harsh to expect that to impact anything outside of that one game.
It affected them horrifically the week after.
It's awful.
Because he's sobbing on the sidelines. And look, it's easy for me to sit here, not playing the game and talk about him not having the bulldog in him to lead his team through a tough time. But good God, we see what happens when your quarterback is sobbing on the sidelines. We see what happens for the rest of that game. We see what happens the week after. There's other quarterbacks who'd say, we're going to go out here and win this for Tank, my best friend. He didn't say that shit. The team looked despondent. The team looked lost. And the quarterback has to lead them through that. And he didn't. 17 of 31 for 185 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Nico Collins led receivers with 3 catches for 59 yards. And you guys can find that. No, I get it, Jared TG. It's harsh. But look, I don't. Look, he's very talented. I just would prefer my quarterback to lead men and not sob on the sidelines. Nico Collins led receivers with 3 catches for 59 yards. Joe Mixon ran 9 times for 26 yards. Mixon refused to speak to reporters after the game. And again, Stroud says the right things, taking the blame for losses. But he doesn't say the right things to lead his team through tough times. Says, terrible on my behalf, probably one of the worst games in my whole career. Just came out flat, didn't have any energy. I didn't lead the offense the way I should have. Yeah, you didn't. You didn't lead anybody. You're still in that my best friend is hurt. They were outgained 432 to 211. Offense had 3.9 yards per play, 4 of 17 on 3rd and 4th down. Outgained on the ground 251 to 58, 0-2 in the red zone. The defense looked demoralized and empty. They're a shell of themselves without safeties, Jalen Petrie and Jimmy Ward. The Ravens put up 7.1 yards per play, went 3 for 3, perfect in the red zone. Pass rush still a strong suit, 1 sack, 5 quarterback hits, but they didn't do enough. Now, Azeez Al-Shaair is back after his 3-game suspension. That guy's not crying on the sidelines. Texans tight end Kate Stover also returned after the emergency appendectomy. Let's talk about the Titans. Passing offense 28th, 193 yards per game. Rushing offense 15th, 110.6. Red zone offense 17th. They scored touchdowns 55.8% of the time. Third down offense 17, 38% of the time. They convert. The pass defense is second, but these stats mean nothing. They're always behind, and teams are they're weak secondary, but they do allow just 177.9 yards per game. The rushing defense is 22nd. They allow 129.4 on the ground. Red zone defense 28th, allowing touchdowns 66% of the time. Their third down defense 21st, allowing conversions 41.3% of the time. They're coming off an ugly 2013 loss to Jacksonville. They lost 5 in a row, 7 of 8. Mason Rudolph was 19 of 31 for 193 yards, touchdown pick. Callahan says today both Rudolph and Will Levis will see playing time in Week 18. Calvin Ridley caught 5 passes for 84 yards. With Tony Pollard out with an illness and an ankle injury, Tyjae Spears ran 20 times for 95 yards before leaving with a concussion. The Titans are not going to rush Spears through protocol for Week 18. So Callahan has told the press how much he wants how much Pollard wants to be back for this game. So Pollard gets $250,000 if he runs for 1,100 yards or 7 rushing touchdowns. He's run for 1,017 yards and he has 5 rushing touchdowns. So he's 50-50 to play, but he's trying to play. He wants that extension. He wants that cash. if you see Pollard in the lineup, you may want to look at him, going for 83 plus, or 2 touchdowns for maybe a sprinkle, so that he gets that $250,000. The offense was 7 of 14 on third down, 1 of 2 in the red zone. The defense held the Jags to just 295 yards, but allowed them to make plays with the game on the line. Jags were 8 of 13 on third down and 2 of 2 in the red zone. The pass rush was quiet, 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. Tennessee had their third string right tackle in Ojukwu after Jalen Duncan left in the first half with a shoulder injury. Duncan started in place of Nicholas Petitfrere, who was benched last week and inactive against Jacksonville. So as much as the Texans have nothing, they must change the momentum, don't they? Don't they have to come in here and play good football, Troy? Take it away, Texans, Titans.
I agree with you, but what are we looking at? What are we looking at a pick'em? How are we looking at a pick'em line in this game? If this is a get ready spot for the Texans in any way, shape, or form. This is not a gift. The books don't give out free money, in my opinion. So are we going to take the Titans? Is that what I'm trying to say? Do I want to back the worst covering team in NFL history? Because that's what the Titans are. And I haven't backed them since very early in the season, so I'm lucky to have avoided the plague. But they probably have the worst situation out of any franchise in the NFL. They're not even close to righting the ship. And I think the Texans, something's telling me that there's a white flag being thrown up in this game, because why are we looking at a pick'em line? I mean, this is a team that completely needs to redesign, refocus, get their act together, get some momentum, and this line is not suggesting that that's the case at all. Offensively, I talked about this every week. Something's broken. It's hard to really put your finger on what that is, but to me, it looks like the route tree, the route combinations just aren't adding up for an offense that is missing a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball and missing, just a weak offensive line in general. There's a lot the Texans have to figure out, and seeing this line is telling me they're not going to figure it out this week. And we know the Titans, I mean, they certainly don't want to win this game. This just seems like a type of spot looking at this line where it's going to be a lot of mob shit. The mob's going to determine the outcome of this game. This is a pass for me, clear as day.
Joseph Gomez says, do the Titans lose draft position if they lose or if they win? They're third right now. They're set to draft third. It's Patriots, Browns, Titans, Giants of the teams that have won 3 games. And then you go to the next level of teams that have won 4 games. Jaguars, Panthers are 6th, Jets 7th, Raiders 8th, Bears 9th. So they want to lose. The Texans must turn this around. They must. Or does D'Amico not care? I mean, how do you go into the playoffs like this, Troy? I mean, that makes...
Yeah, it makes no sense to sit anybody, but this line is telling us people are sitting.
Well, but this line opened up, a sharp book with limits, +5 for the Texans. And the Texans are now -1. What does that tell you? Doesn't that tell you that?
Wait, say it again, Jim. I might have missed something.
This line opened up with the Texans +5. This line opened up, very sharp book, +5. It was on, let me give you the exact date here.
I got you.
On Sunday the 29th at 8:29 p.m. +5, with the idea that they weren't going to dress anybody. And now it's a -1.
This game stinks. This game stinks, brother. Still not enough. Like, why is it 1? Why is it a pick? No, something's wrong. I'm not going to be part of it. I'm not going to look like a jag off on Sunday with a bet in this game, and the line is moved 5 more points in whichever direction. Like, this is not a game for me.
I wonder how high this total goes up, but then are you going to get defensive intensity? The weather's going to be horrific and get worse as the game goes on. But you see this total climbing. Ugh, it's ugly. I get why people moved on to Texans +5 after the debacle. That should have been probably bet right away. All right. Okay. Obviously, this game takes more work. 6-point line move towards the Texans, who have nothing to play for. Both Levis and Mason Rudolph will be starting at quarterback or playing at quarterback. Jared TG giving his final score of 3-2. All right, let's roll on. Next up, 1 p.m. Eastern, Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts. Jaguars 4-12, 1-7 on the road. Colts 7-9, 4-3 at home. We're at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. On the side, we have the Colts -5 at even money. They opened up at -5 at -106 at the pick'em. So there's been a 7-cent move towards the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, Colts eliminated after the debacle in East Rutherford. The total for this is 44.5. It opened up at 45.5. It's dropped a point to 44.5. When we get to the cash flow for this spot, on the spread, you have a coin flip on the ticket count. 48% of the tickets on the Colts and 72% of the cash. On the total, 75% of tickets, 73% cash on the over. I think we're all certain that this is Doug Peterson's last game as coach of the Jaguars. Their passing offense, 23rd, 204.4 yards per game. Rushing offense, 26th. They rush for 101 yards per game. Their red zone offense, 15th. They score touchdowns 57.5% of the time. Their third down offense, 21st at 37.4% of the time. Passing defense is the worst in the league. They allow 257.7 yards per game through the air. Rushing defense, 23rd, allowing 129.8 yards per game. It's the worst defense that we see week to week. Red zone defense, 21st, allowing touchdowns 60.7% of the time, while their third down defense is 27th, allowing conversions 43.8% of the time. Jaguars coming off a 2013 home victory over the Titans. Mac Jones, 15-22 for 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Brian Thomas Jr. caught 7 for 91 and a touchdown, had 1 carry for 18 yards. So he has 8 straight games with at least 60 yards and a touchdown. That ties him with Hall of Famer Randy Moss for the most by a rookie in NFL history. Thomas Jr. also became the 5th player in Jaguars history with double-digit TD receptions, joining Mercedes Lewis, Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns, and Reggie Williams. Travis Etienne ran 15 times for 49 yards, caught a 26-yard pass. What a disappointment that guy his career has been. Offense only put up 295 yards, but made plays when it mattered most. Jags finished 8-13 on third down, 2-2 in the red zone. Pass rush had 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and Josh Hines Allen has 53 career sacks, so he's 2 shy of 20 Bracken's franchise record. They held the Titans 7-14 on third down, 1-2 in the red zone. Devin Lloyd had an interception. For the Colts, passing offense 26th, 194.3 yards per game. Rushing offense 8th, 134.6. Red zone offense 19th, 55.1%. Third down offense 16th, 38.2%. Passing defense 26th. Their defense has just been a debacle. 26th in passing yards allowed, 230.8. 26th in rushing yards allowed, 133. Red zone defense 19th, 60.3%. Third down defense 31st at 45%. Colts coming off a demoralizing 45-33 loss at the Giants to eliminate them from the postseason. Outgained the Giants 446 to 389, 10 more first downs, but they lose the turnover battle 3-0. Allow the Giants to register their first home win of the season, snap their 10-game losing streak. Anthony Richardson out with a back injury. Flacco 26 of 38 for 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. He also lost a fumble. Richardson was listed as a non-participant in today's practice. It's Wednesday. And Steichen hopes the quarterback can play. I find it so hard to believe that they'll play him here. Alec Pierce caught 6 passes for 122 yards, touchdown. Pittman caught 9 for 109, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor ran 32 times for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Caught 2 for 11 yards. I give you those stats, you think, well, how bad did they beat the Giants? 7-13 on third down, 3-5 in the red zone, but their defense was abhorrent. No fight in them at all. Why would that change this week? And the only answer to that question, Troy, is what we brought up with the Cowboys. Is it because they're at home? You know, they allowed the lowest scoring team in the league to put up 45 points and 7.3 yards per play. 7-13, the Giants went on third down, 2-3 in the red zone. This pass rush was anemic. 0 sacks, 1 quarterback hit. Take it away for us here, Troy. Jaguars, Colts.
I find this game fascinating for one thing, and it's the market, which is, I mean, if you want to close, if your goal is to close with CLV, some pros, that's the only thing that they're chasing is CLV. I'd bet the Jags +5 and close with value, certainly. Not once has a divisional market opened up with a home favorite between 4.5 and 5.5 after week 10, and the line moved towards the home team. Meaning, historically, this line has only moved towards the Jaguars, and it looks like we're on the precipice of seeing this move down to 4.5, 3.5. It's a 14-game sample, so it's a decent-sized sample over the course of 3 years, and it's pretty much a 50-50 proposition. ATS the home team 6 and 7 ATS. There are some trends towards the under. And I think it's funny that we do see some public sentiment to fade the Colts after watching them lose to the Giants, which they couldn't get a stop. Like, I don't know. It was just an odd game between the Colts and the Giants. And the Jags, they've been extremely competitive since their bye week. They're 2-3, I believe. All of the losses were really closely contested. I think they were all one possession. If they weren't, then the scoreboard didn't reflect the actual gameplay. And God, it's got to be extremely depressing if you're a Colts fan. All the problems the team had coming into the season under Steichen, which Steichen may need to just stick to being an offensive or a coordinator because it's been a tough season. Anthony Richardson, I mean, he shows promise. He shows a huge upside, a lot of potential, but he struggles to execute. And the defense just allowed the Giants to drop 50 points on them. Like, this is a very depressing season. So it's like, what are you going to get out of the Colts in this game? The only way I would bet this game right now would be taking the points with the Jags because, again, I mean, CLV, there is some value in that. And I think the Jags is probably the right side in this game. What's the incentive? I mean, they're definitely – obviously the Jags are incentivized to lose in some way, shape, or form for draft position, but we know a head coach isn't going to have his team thinking, Mac Jones, they ain't thinking about a loss. They're thinking about coming out here and trying to get a dub.
It hurts the Jaguars enormously if they win this game. It hurts them more than any other team playing
the
today.
Last parting gift from Doug Peterson.
They're in the 5th draft position right now. And if they win this game, they will leapfrog the Panthers, the Jets, the Raiders, the Bears, and then strength of schedule and things of that nature to see who gets the 10th pick between them and the Saints. It's a huge, huge loss here.
But it wouldn't be just a, we're not talking about a 2.5, 1.5 point spread. We're talking about a 5. We're talking about a number that's suggesting weakness for the Colts. I feel like it's a pretty good spot to back the Jags, but I don't know if I have the balls to do it just because betting dogs this season, I've already touched on it. My ROI, everyone's ROI betting dogs this year is terrible. So why continue?
Rick Chase says Colts embarrassed last weekend at home. So Vincent Hawkins doesn't think that Joe Flacco is playing. I don't understand why they would let AR play when he's clearly got a back injury. I don't understand. Mac Beaver says Jags do not need a quarterback, so draft position not that important. Unless you want to trade Trevor Lawrence. I guess this game just needs – I guess I just need more time. Vincent Hawkins likes points here. So at this point, you're just going to the question, are the Jaguars going to play for Doug Peterson? Are the Colts going to play for Steichen or play for their fans in their final home game of the year? Are you close to answering either of those questions?
I can't post a definitive answer because after what we've seen from the Colts, what can we expect? We just saw the Giants drop 45. I guess we should expect a pissed off team at home in front of their fans one last time. I don't know. It's a tough game. I'd rather not have action in it. But if I did, it'd be the Jags.
What about points?
Points make a lot of sense. I thought this 45 seemed astonishingly high for what we've come to expect from the Jaguars. So points do make a lot of sense.
It has dropped from 45.5 to 44.5. And interestingly enough, when I've gone back through my week 18, it's the totals that have hurt me more than any sides. I've been fine. Other than that 1 year, it's the totals that have hurt me so badly. Leonard Welch says Jacksonville, if AR-15 is a starter. So obviously Jags Colts is going to take more time to decipher. We're back in business with Betting with the Bag tomorrow and the Cappers Contest show. 3 p.m. Eastern, our final Cappers Contest show of the year. And don't forget, Confidence Pool, NFL Confidence Pool, $50 a pop. We'll be promoting it here shortly. Let's roll on. 1 p.m. Eastern, Buffalo Bills 13-3, 5-3 on the road at the New England Patriots 3-13, 1-6 home. Gillette Stadium of Foxborough, Massachusetts. The Bills have nothing to play for here. They've secured the AFC's number 2 seed. They'll host the worst conference wildcard team, and that could be the Broncos, Dolphins, or Bengals at this point. Another important part is that Josh Allen will start the game. He'll play for only a very brief time, McDermott has said. He has the longest active streak among all NFL quarterbacks with 114 consecutive starts dating back to 2018. McDermott, quote unquote, says he will be out there for a very, very short-lived amount of time, and then he'll be off rather quickly. Trubisky will be taking most of the snaps. It's also going to be very windy in Foxborough on Sunday. Very, very windy. 17 mile per hour winds, 31 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy. Very windy. Let's go through the line history here. We'll start with the total after we just talked about the wind. It opened up at 40 and is dropping very quickly. See some 38.5, some 38s. The 39 here is minus 121 to the under, so it's basically a 38. Then on the spread here, we have New England a plus 2.5 and minus 101. So I had forgotten exactly how much money I was going to make if the Patriots lose this game and are the worst regular season team in the NFL, get the number one seed. It turns out it's not as much as I was hoping for. It's $1,280. I'm at 400 on the plus 320. And at that here, I feel like I wanted to talk it out before I decided, but I think I should just put 300 on the Patriots money line in this spot. The money line is plus 125 right now. Now, the money line opened up at plus 101. The Bills have gone from minus 117 to minus 146. So I haven't bet it yet because obviously that's a pretty legit move towards the Bills. Let's get to the cash flow here. 81% of the tickets, 80% of cash on the Bills. They're not giving us any information on the money line, but we know the line's moving towards the Bills. 85% of tickets, 88% cash on the over. You know, this is such a tricky situation, Troy. And Patriots have an opportunity to be the number one overall pick in the NFL draft, and they could easily screw this up with a victory. Their passing offense, 9th in the league, 234.1 yards per game. Rushing offense, 9th, 131.3 yards per game. Red zone offense, 2nd. They score touchdowns, 70.8% of the time. Their third down offense, 7th. Oh, this is the Bills. That's why I'm tripping out here. Sorry. Bills passing offense, 9th, and we don't need to go over that because we know that Trubisky will be in. Rushing offense, 9th. That will come back because, James Cook will get a lot of attention, but James Cook's not going to be playing. We're going to go over who will be running back here. At this point, for the running backs here, I've got all this information, but James Cook will not, be out there. Their red zone offense, we don't even need to go over their offensive statistics. Passing defense, 22nd, 225.7 yards per game. Rushing defense, 13th, 117.9 yards per game. Red zone defense, 17th. They allow touchdowns 58.6% of the time. Their third down defense all year has been a problem. It's going to hurt them at some point because you're going to be able to keep Josh Allen off the field. They're 29th in red zone defense, allowing conversions 44.4% of the time. They're coming off an impressive 40-14 victory at home over the Jets. They've won 13 games for the 5th time in franchise history. They've never won 14. Set single-season franchise records for points and touchdowns. Josh Allen was 16-27 for 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He also ran 5 times for 17 yards and touchdown. The NFL's first player to pass for and run for 40 touchdowns in 5 consecutive seasons. He's now 65 rushing touchdowns, so he matches the team record held by Thurman Thomas. But Trubisky, who we'll be seeing, Shaver has caught a 69-yard touchdown pass late from Trubisky. 13th Bills player to catch a touchdown pass. That's ties a single-season NFL record. Cooper caught 3 for 56. Cook ran 15 times for 53 yards. Cook, 15th rushing TD of the season. That's one short of the single-season record set by O.J. Simpson. He ties Josh Allen, who had 15 last year. Bills got whatever they wanted, 8 of 14 on third down, 3 for 3 in the red zone. The defense shut the Jets out until the fourth quarter, forced 3 turnovers, allowed the Jets just 2 red zone opportunities. Christian Benford, Jordan Phillips each had interceptions off of Aaron Rodgers. Pass rush looked good, 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits. Talk about the Patriots. Their passing offense, 32nd league, 172.7 yards per game, last in the NFL. Rushing offense, 13th, 118.3. We thought their passing offense numbers would change, with Drake May back there. It never did. Red zone offense, 30th. Third down offense, 29th. The offense is bad. Passing defense, 15th, 216.7. Rushing defense, 25th, allowing 131.4 on the ground. This defense was so much worse than I imagined, Troy. Red zone defense, 24th. They allow touchdowns 61.8% of the time. Third down defense, 26th. They allow conversions 43.5% of the time. That 47 home loss versus the Chargers was horrific. They've now lost 6 straight. That's their second 6-game losing streak of the season. 2-14 last 2 years at home. Outgained 428 to 181. So I've already cashed the under 4.5 wins. So, that was plus money. So I'm in business there. But I don't know whether to hedge here. So I do want you to touch on that. Drake May was 12 of 22 for 117 yards touchdown. He also ran 6 times for 32 yards, and he lost a fumble. He is the first rookie quarterback in franchise history with a touchdown pass in 8 straight games, but he was sacked 4 times. He fumbled in the second quarter. It's 8 straight game with at least 1 turnover. Demario Douglas had receivers with 4 catches for 46 yards and a touchdown. Antonio Gibson ran 12 times for 63 yards. Only 11 first downs. 2 of 15 on 3rd and 4th down, and never had a red zone opportunity. That's at home in front of their fans. The defense was horrific. Chargers went 12 of 19 on 3rd and 4th down, 2 of 4 in the red zone. Pass rush, 0 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. And Christian Gonzalez left the game in the second quarter with a head injury. He's out. He's in concussion protocol. He's not coming back for this. So take Christian Gonzalez. Now, that's not being confirmed yet, but he's not going to get through concussion protocol. So take Christian Gonzalez out of the cap. Take it away, Troy. Trubisky and the Bills against the Patriots, who have a chance at number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, there's some conflicting narratives here for me. I think the line obviously is short. I mean, I think it's just exactly what you were alluding to. Josh Allen's not going to play the entire game. I have a lot to say about short home dogs and how they've underperformed historically. Now, 2.5, 3 is a little bit different because you're getting a few more points that actually matter in this situation. And we know the Pats, they want to lock in that number 1 pick. So the way I want to bet this game is despite how bad the Patriots defense has been, I want to bet this under. I think the under is the right play for a few different reasons, mostly the market. When I'm looking at home teams that are dogs between 2.5 and 3, with the market moving towards the under, 30 and 11 to the under. If the game is in division, 17 and 5 to the under. If the total is less than 41, 5 and 1 to the under. The later in the season doesn't change the fact that we're going under in this situation historically. So it just makes me think the total looks short. I know we should expect maybe some bad weather, but I just don't know. I don't know. My skepticism in week 18 is holding me back. I think an under is a great play in this spot.
It is, but it's tough betting unders when there's no defensive accountability and intensity.
But that's also why I kind of like it. I mean, we're looking at a 38. We know there's going to be hella action on this over. I mean, we're looking at 88 right now or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just seems like one of those spots books are going to get back some of what, the public's been eating up. And despite the public isn't having a great year when it comes to totals either. So they're getting a lot of the money back. They're losing on sides with other bets. Trust me. But I think that unders could play here.
So what's holding you from pressing the button?
The thought of week 18 defenses not caring. I'm pressing the button, Jim. I haven't.
Well,
I feel strong enough.
Before you press a button, doesn't this fit the profile of a total that may go down to 38, could go to 37.5, and then at the 2 hours before kickoff, it just gets absolutely slammed. You see it get up to 39.5 or 40 before kickoff because the public thinks it's too low and they're just hammering the over.
But I think the books won't move it in this situation because I think we're expecting terrible weather. There's a weatherman on YouTube that I recently found, has nothing to do with sports betting, but talks about weather, especially extreme weather. And he's forecasting a blitzkrieg of freezing cold, potentially snowy, which, snow might lead to overs in some way, shape, or form, but freezing cold, windy, bad weather for football, essentially. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, 17-mile-per-hour winds here. So if you were in my shoes, do you bet Patriots money line for a hedge on the worst record in the NFL?
I think so. I mean, you have a pretty decent sized bet right now on a plus 320. I think it's good to pull in some money here because we know the Bills are disincentivized, and I don't trust short home dogs. I don't trust them. So I think the hedge bet's in order, and maybe it's just something where your cat. Maybe it's not putting a full unit on it, but maybe it's something where you are winning money. You're making out no matter what. Put yourself in a win-win.
And do you think that this line will continue moving towards the Bills to the point where you can get a 3 on the Patriots? Because it feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like you'll be able to get a 3 on the Patriots. If anything, it'll be a juice 3, but I think threes will eventually pop. Actually, I feel like I've seen a few.
There was a 3 on the 30th.
There's one at DK right now, minus 118.
Yeah, I don't know how much big I want to pay though. Okay, I've got to figure out what to do surrounding that. I do find the under appealing as well. I find the under appealing as well.
I bet it.
And what number did you get?
I got the 38. 38 is good enough for me. There's a 39 available right here. But the 38 is good enough for me, and I got a good number, minus 108.
So, Mel says, can I interest you in a little Ray Davis? Because it'll be Ray Davis and Ty Johnson getting a ton of run because James Cook's not going to. All right. Okay, Troy has moved on the under 38. What vig was that?
Minus 108.
All right, I'm interested in that, but I can tell you what, I won't bet it because I can't let if I'm focusing on either making 1280 on the Patriots losing, or a middle if I take a +3 or a money line spot, I'm not going to mess with the total just because it's just you're playing with fire and messing with the black. So as much as I like it, I don't expect to move on it at this point. Troy on the under 38, and I've got to decide what to do with the hedge. Let's roll on. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern. New York Giants 3-13, 2-5 on the road. The Philadelphia Eagles 13-3, 7-1 at home. Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is the game I wanted to talk about, Troy, as the one that has screwed me up on week 17s back in the day, now week 18s in the NFL. And that is not trusting a very good football team, sitting a bunch of players at home in the final week of the year when a lot of these players really, really want to be out there. Today, Sirianni announced a ton of starters are resting. Hurts, Barkley's not taking the shot at Eric Dickerson's single season record.
That says a lot about the character of not only Saquon, but the thought process of where this team expects to be.
It's the right move.
Absolutely.
There's only one coach in football who could play their starters in a meaningless game, and we just watched him do it in the Dan Campbell.
I knew and that's part of why I liked it so much. It's part of why I like the Lions.
Yes, I get it, but you have to do this. Lane Johnson not playing, Mailata, AJ Brown, Jalen Carter, Devonta Smith, all not playing. Let's go over the line. And so in the past, I've thought, well, you got to bet the Giants. Who in the world wants to buy the Giants high? Let's take a look at the line history here for this one. And we have, Jared TG talking about the cold front that's coming in to everybody here on the East Coast. Let's just grab the Philly weather here for Sunday. This is a 1 p.m. start, and it's windy it's cold and windy everywhere you go. Now, Philly's a little different because it's going to get less windy as the game goes on in Philly. So it starts 32 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 10-mile-per-hour winds, and it lightens up as the game goes on. So that is the weather situation. Let's get into the line history here. We have the Eagles minus 2.5 at minus 107. They opened up at -3, minus 117. A legit move towards the New York Giants. From a total standpoint, we have the 37.5. This opened up at 38.5. We've dropped a point to 37.5. When we get down to the cash flow, here we have. Here we go. Oh, my bad. Here, what's wrong with? Here we go. We have 85% of the tickets and 81% of the cash on the Eagles. That's astonishing to me. But I've seen this happen in situations like 93% of tickets, 97% of the cash on the money line on the Eagles, and the line's moving towards the Giants. 87% of tickets, 94% cash on the over, and this is going towards the under. Absolutely wild here. Let's get into the that was the cash flow. So let's roll. The Giants Passing offense 27th, 193.1, but Drew Lock, with a real showcase opportunity here, just like he just had last week. Rushing offense 22nd, 105.2 yards per game. Red zone offense is the worst in the NFL. They score touchdowns 44.2% of the time. Their third down offense 27th in the NFL. They convert 35.8% of the time. Passing defense 10th. They allow 208 yards per game through the air. The rushing defense 31st. They allow 141.6 yards per game on the ground, and that they're 10th in yards just because they're always behind and teams just run the ball and take it easy. The red zone defense is 10th in the league. They allow touchdowns 54% of the time, and their third down defense 23rd, allowing conversions 41.6% of the time. Neither team has anything to play for. The NFC East champ Eagles are locked into the second seed. We thought that they may let Saquon go for the rushing record. It was a mistake to do that. So the Eagles will host the NFC's worst wild card team. That will be either the Commanders or the Packers. I did screw it up a little bit in the Commanders breakdown, but if the Commanders win, they won't have to face the Eagles, and then the Packers will have to go to Philadelphia. Giants coming off snapping their 10-game losing streak, winning their first home game of the season, 45-33 over the Colts, and it cost them the number 1 pick in the draft. I mean, just hilarious that they would do that here. So now they have the 4th pick in the draft. They have the chance they're in the number 1 pick, 0.9%. They have the worst draft order of the teams with 3 wins. That's bad. There's a mistake and funny. So another win here would help them continue their climb up the draft order. In their win over the Colts, Drew Lock was excellent. 17-23, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Malik Neighbors caught 7 for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wandale Robinson caught 5 for 71 yards and a touchdown. Tyrone Tracy ran 20 times for 59 yards, caught 2 passes for 14 yards. Neighbors and Tracy are the third pair, first for the Giants, the third pair of rookies to have more than 1,000 yards from scrimmage in the same season. The last duo to do it, Reggie Bush, Marquez Colston for the Saints in 2006. Giants were 7-13 on third down, 2-3 in the red zone, allowed the Colts to put up 446 yards and 25 first downs. Colts were 7-13 on third down, 3-5 in the red zone. Pass rush finished with 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. Drew Phillips, Dane Belton had picks. They won the turnover battle 3-0, and it won them the game. Emir Smith-Marset had a 100-yard return in the second half. On the second half opening kickoff. 45 points were the most for New York since putting up 49 in 2015. It's the most since a 45-14 rout against Washington in 2014. The most at home since they put up 52 points against Saints in 2012. And just crazy. But they did lose another defensive lineman. Armand Watts ruled out in the first half with a knee injury. He's not coming back. So that is the Giants. Let's talk about these Eagles. Passing offense 30th, 183.9 yards per game through the air, but they bounce that off with the best rushing attack in the league, 187.3 yards per game on the ground. Red zone offense 14th, 57.8% of the time. They score a touchdown. Their third down offense is 9th. They convert 43% of the time. Number 1 passing defense in the league. They allow, yards-wise, they allow 176.4 yards per game. They're 10th in rushing yards allowed, 104.4. Red zone defense 8 to 51.1%. Their third down defense is 7th, allowing conversions 36% of the time. Eagles come in off 41-7 victory at home over the Cowboys. Jalen Hurts out with a concussion. Kenny Pickett tried to play through the rib injury, was unable to. 10 of 15 for 143 yards, touchdown, ran for a touchdown, and then a hard hit sent him to the sidelines. Tanner McKee will be starting here. McKee went 3 for 4 for 54 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Devonta Smith had 6 catches for 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he'll be resting. Saquon, he went for 31 carries for 167 yards, finished the season with 2,005 yards, 101 short of Dickerson, who had 2,105 for the Rams in 84. So Gainwell is going to be resting as well. So it's Will Shipley and Davis Price who will be carrying the running game. The offense, 6-13 on third down, 3-5 in the red zone. Won the turnover battle 4-0, allowed them to coast to an easy victory. Gardner Johnson, 2 interceptions, returning 1 to the house. He may not be in the lineup. Pass rush finished 1 sack, 3 quarterback hits. Bryce Huff briefly left with a shoulder injury after, but he's fine. He had the wrist surgery. He's fine, but he's not going to play on Sunday either. Jesus. There's a lot to uncover here. Take it away for us, Troy. Giants, Eagles.
This was not a game that interests me at all. What an awful win for this Giants team. Just unacceptable, if you ask me. Yeah, I want to see quality football on a weekly basis. But if I were a Giants fan, I'd be absolutely livid. I wouldn't be able to stand it. And the Eagles, I mean, this has been my horse all season long. Obviously, I had futures open from the preseason. I plan to back them and pick and choose my spots come the playoffs. They have all the elements of a championship team. None of them are going to be in this game. It's not a game that catches my interest. There's a lot of conflicting things you'll find in the database between late season and the broader market throughout the entire sample. Nothing is capturing my interest in this game except for my bullish sentiment on the Eagles come playoffs.
Are you surprised the public's hammering the Eagles?
Yeah, especially after watching what the Giants did to the, knowing the Eagles are sitting everybody. I don't think public is really moving on this game at this point in the week, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, you were right. There's 3,862 tickets counted.
And how many is that? What is that relative to, like, just generally speaking, is that on the small, short side?
It's on the short side. It's not as the Jaguars, Colts have the least, but it's the second least. I take that back. 49ers, Cardinals are also very low. So, my initial thought was, oh, you got to back the Giants here. And I was like, okay, why are you thinking that way? And of course, because we just watched him put up 45 points. Drew Lock has a lot to prove. And the Eagles are going to be playing Tanner McKee. And then I went back and I was like, look, I've fallen for this before. But I mean, if the public's all over the Eagles, God, it would interest me in the Giants. I guess I should probably stay off this spot. I was expecting when we read the market to see the public on the Giants. Now, you're right. There's only 3,600 tickets in, so we should probably let this market marinate. But, man, maybe I should just stay off of this spot.
Maybe there's a good bet, and it reminds me of something that Birdie would do, is playing both sides plus 3.5, plus 4.5 in a parlay. Because I have a history of this market that says 50% of the time it'll land between 3. One of the teams winning by 3, 1, 2, anything under 3 essentially. But if you expand that to 4.5, you're catching 80% of the sample. And I'm looking at just week 18 over the last 3 years in division, home team laying this price. Like, it's just interesting to me that might be an interesting way to play it.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't do that. I need to really trust the defenses in a game where I'm betting to keep it close. But I get it. All right, it's maybe we should just stay off the spot because again, how do you not? I mean, Tanner McKee is not as good as he looked for those 4 passes where he threw 2 touchdowns. But there are Eagles players that want to show out so that they get some run, and they'll be, very excited about the opportunity come Sunday. Especially Davis Price and Will Shipley. So, all right, that game's obviously going to take more time and thought. Let's roll on. 1 p.m. Eastern with the New Orleans Saints 5-11, 2-5 on the road. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers 9-7, 4-4 at home. We are at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. Now, the weather is not the same issue here, but it is windy. Actually, I guess it's not. I thought it was supposed to be windy still. No, it's not. It's fine. Beautiful weather for football. 67 Fahrenheit, 8-mile-per-hour winds, partly cloudy. Beautiful weather. Let's get into the line history here in the cash flow for the Saints spot. We have this total at 43.5. It hasn't moved. It's moved 3 cents towards the over. That's it. On the point spread, we have the Saints is 14-point dog. It's really 13.5 or 13 across the market. At 14, there's been a 9-cent move towards the Saints. We get to the cash flow for the Saints Buccaneers. We have, give me one second. Here we go. We have 90% of the tickets, 88% of the cash on the Buccaneers, 84% of the tickets, 93% cash on the over. We'll talk about the Saints first, but we don't need to go over too much of their offensive statistics because not that Rattler is that much worse than Carr, but he is worse. Passing defense has been a problem all year. 27th in the league, allowing 239.9 yards per game. The rushing defense has been atrocious all year, allowing 139.1 yards per game on the ground. That's third worst. Red zone defense being okay, 12th in the league, 54.9% of the time they allow touchdowns, and their third down defense 18th, allowing conversion 9.4% of the time. Coming off an ugly 25-10 loss at home to the Raiders, Radler was 20-36 for 218 yards, touchdown, 2 picks. Also ran 3 times for 46 yards. Juwan Johnson caught 6 for 66. Foster Moreau caught 3 for 47. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire trying to get his career back, dealing with the cyclic vomiting syndrome. Trying to get his career back. He ran 5 times for 20 yards. But the offense couldn't make plays when it mattered most. No surprise to anyone. 1 of 10 on third down, 0 of 1 in the red zone. While the offense couldn't make plays with the game on line, the defense couldn't get stops when it mattered most. The Raiders went 10 of 18 on third down, 2 of 4 in the red zone. Pass rush was anemic. 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits. Saints added more injuries to their ever-going report. Kendra Miller left the game with concussion symptoms. He's in protocol. Linebacker Jalen Ford hurt his leg badly in the fourth quarter. He's done. Peyton Turner left their defensive end. One of their defensive ends left with an ankle injury. The Tampa Bay offense, if you look at their passing offense yards, rushing offense yards, red zone offense, which is 4th, third down offense first, no team is better. I mean, they're better overall statistics from these 4 categories than the Bills or the Ravens. Their passing defense has been a problem all year, 29th, allowing 244.9 yards per game. Rushing defense being great all year, 5th, allowing 99.9 per game. Red zone defense, 11th. They allow touchdowns 54.6% of the time. And third down defense, 15th, allowing a conversion 39.1% of the time. Harold Williams says he's on Evans receiving props just like last Sunday. Evans caught 8 catches for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he needs 85 yards receiving. This is a key number. He needs 85 yards in the season finale to tie Jerry Rice's record of 11 straight seasons with 1,000 yards plus receiving. So how do we not bet that? Isn't that something that must be bet? It's something that just, must be bet. And touch on that too, Troy, when it comes to you. So the Buccaneers make the playoffs as NFC South champions. That's it. So they beat New Orleans. They're the champs of the NFC South. I caught their over 7.5 wins. It was juiced pretty heavy, but it was a max bet. Came through quite easily. But that was the only future I had on the Bucs. I wish I took them to win the division too. It was something that Dennis Garcia was pushing in a football chat I'm in with them, but I wish I had done it. So now they could play their way into the number 3 seed if they win on Sunday and the Rams lose to the Seahawks. So the Rams do have something to play for to keep that 3rd seed. If they're the 3rd seed in the NFC, the Bucs, will face either the Packers or the Commanders in the opening round of the playoffs. If the Bucs remain in the 4th seed after Week 18, they would host either the Vikings or the Lions, which is something that they don't want. The Buccaneers will be eliminated if they lose to the Saints, and the Falcons beat the Panthers. They come off a dominant 48-14 victory at home over the Panthers, outgained the Panthers 551 to 204. 33 first downs the Buccaneers had, just 13 for the Panthers. Baker Mayfield was phenomenal. 27 to 32 for 359 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks. We just talked about Mike Evans. Bucky, 20 carries for 113 yards, caught 4 for 77, over 1,000 yards this season, and he was primarily the backup to Rachaad White. Amazing. 10 to 14 on third down, 5-8 in the red zone. Bucs held the ball for 41 minutes and 11 seconds of the game. The defense completely shut down the Panthers. Panthers put up 39 yards on the ground, finished 2 of 10 on third and fourth down. The Bucs finished with 5 sacks and 7 quarterback hits. So Antoine Winfield still out with the knee injury. He's not coming back for this. Cade Otton not coming. Well, Cade Otton might. And it's not. So this is the situation with Winfield before I say that he's not coming back. So he's been out since week 14. Kayvon Merriweather's been starting in his place. Now Merriweather's dealing with knee issues. So, I shouldn't say that he's not going to come back because they need either Merriweather or Winfield back there. Cornerback Jamal Dean left in the first half with a knee injury and didn't return. He has been dealing with knee injuries throughout. He could very likely not be in this game, and then Josh Hayes would be backing him up. Take it away for us here, Troy. Saints, Buccaneers.
This is another game that this spread, this number just doesn't really catch my interest. It's kind of in my dead zone. Too big of a number to lay with the home team historically, especially late in the season. But there's no chance I'm going to be back in the Saints. I mean, I don't think that this, from an X's and O standpoint, you look at the matchup, You look at the coverage, you look at the offense versus defense numbers, and you watch it on film. The Saints will not be able to keep up offensively, but there's no way it can be that easy. And historically, it's played out. These double-digit dogs this late in the season in division bring home the money. I personally think the Bucs need to let go of Todd Bowles. I think he probably needs to go. I feel like he's making some bad decisions. He's putting his team in bad situations. And Baker Mayfield's been a saving grace. I mean, we talked about his turnaround for a number of weeks now. And I know that he has a bunch of incentives, just like Mike Evans. Like, did you touch on Baker Mayfield's incentives?
No.
I'm pretty sure he has the most money to make from incentives. I'm not certain on that, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it from a reputable source recently. This Bucs team is going to be a threat. I mean, they're the only team that, or they're one of the teams that have beaten the Lions this season. And that tells me that that's when they were at full strength, right? I think that tells me that they can be a threat come the playoffs against the Lions or the Vikings, where they're pretty much earmarked to play against. Actually, maybe not, because of the Rams situation, another 6.5-point dogs. But I think that this team is a fade come the playoffs, especially after they smack up the Saints, put another good win up on the board. You probably get a sell high spot in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, look at what the body of work that they've put together after they went on a 4-game losing streak against quality teams. Now they've won 5 of their last 6 against the Panthers, the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Giants. The Chargers are on there. That's definitely their best win on the board, but I'm not going to have action in this game, but I think I'm going to be looking to fade the Bucs come the wild card round.
You wouldn't want the Mike Evans prop? I mean, they've talked, both Baker and Mike have talked about it in the press.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was thinking Baker Mayfield props. But I think he only needs to maintain, whereas, Mike Evans needs to get he needs to go get it. So that actually makes sense. Yeah. Maybe Mike Evans is the play instead of Baker.
And yes, James Ronner talking about it. There's no chance that Carr, we know that they're all not playing. Carr, Kamara, Olave are all not playing. It's not, they may be listed as questionable, but, everybody knows they're not going to be in the lineup here. Interesting. You would think this would be just another smash spot for the Bucs, but
yeah.
We had Mikey Money come in and show us the numbers for these teams that need a win, and you talked about them off the top as well. These divisional dogs in these spots, so maybe Mike Evans over 85.5 receiving yards is the only spot to move on. I know there's nothing that's too easy, and this feels too easy here. All right. And Jared TG says Evans will definitely be in most of his prop parlays this week. Okay, let's roll on to afternoon action on Sunday. 4:25 p.m. Eastern with the Kansas City Chiefs 15-1, 7-1 on the road. Denver Broncos 9-7, 5-2 at home. Empire Field at Mile High, Denver, Colorado. Let's grab the Denver weather here quickly. I should have had it already up. We have, so on Sunday, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, of course, that's 2:25 p.m. Eastern in Colorado. So we have 38 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 7 miles per hour. Pretty nice weather. Let's get into the line history here. There was talk about Mahomes playing a couple drives he's not going to be able to. Also, it looks like Kelsey will not. This was my dream, right? When I pitched at under 850 yards, I was like, if Kelsey stays healthy, they might not even dress him in the final game of the year. So he's about 30 away from catching the over. I think he's at 829 or something. I got under 850.5, so I guess that's just 21.5 on there. Went for 84 last game, I believe. Let's get into the line history here for Chiefs Broncos. We have the Broncos as 10.5-point favorites. They opened up at 10.5. There's been no movement on the juice, slightly juiced towards the Chiefs. On the total here, we have a 39.5 juice to the under. And opened up at 38.5. We've gone up a point to 39.5. Shout out to Bernie, our guy, Razor Sharp Picks dad. Great to see you, my man. Your Eagles, Bernie, your Eagles look very good, my friend. They look very good. All right, let's set this one up. Let's take a look at the cash flow, though, for this spot, our first afternoon game. We have, why is not, here we go. We have 75% of tickets, 74% of cash on the Kansas City Chiefs, 89% of tickets, 91% cash on the over. We don't need to get into the stats offensively for the Chiefs. Defensively, we know they've been middling except for third down, where they're the best in the league. Crucial spot for them. Their red zone offense has been a little better of late. Pass defense 14th to 12.4 yards per game. Rush defense 4th, they only 98.3 yards per game. Now, they're resting a bunch of important players in that defense. So red zone defense 6th. They allow touchdowns 49% of the time. Third down defense 21st. They allow conversions 41.3% of the time. And they're in the perfect spot here now. And I do think that, it's easy to say now. I've been very critical of the Chiefs throughout the year. I think they're the most likely team to win the Super Bowl, and I expect them to win the Super Bowl. I have no futures on them to win the Super Bowl. They've clinched, or any futures of any kind on them. Chiefs have clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC. We'll be looking to rest players here. The Broncos are in a win-and-you're-in scenario. Victory will give them the 7th seed. That's the best that they can get. Guarantee them the postseason trip to Buffalo in round 1. And we don't know exactly who is going to be rested entirely yet. Reed's still putting that together. But Carson Wentz will be starting at quarterback. Against Steelers, Mahomes was excellent. 29-38, 320 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Kelsey led receivers 8 catches for 84 yards, touchdown. Xavier Worthy caught 8 passes for 79 yards and a touchdown. It's their offensive statistics are pretty middling this year. But I see this team getting stronger and stronger. Now, Pacheco did hurt his ribs. Reed said he's available for the playoffs, but he's not going to practice this week. He ran 6 times for 18 yards before leaving with the rib injury. Kareem Hunt ran 9 times for 20 yards and a touchdown. Chiefs put up 6.7 yards per play. They were just 3 of 10 on third down, 4 or 5 in the red zone. The Chiefs allowed the Steelers to go 8 of 16 on third down, but shut them down in the red zone. Steelers were just 1 of 4 there. And that was without Chris Jones out of the lineup with a calf injury. But the pass rush still looked formidable. 5 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. Chris Jones now has 2 more weeks to rest before game 1 of the divisional round. Justin Reed had an interception. Talk about the Broncos here. Passing offense 22nd, 205.6 yards per game through the air. Rushing offense 17th with 109.4 on the ground. Red zone offense 18th. They scored touchdowns 60.8% of the time. That number's been climbing throughout the year. Their third down offense is 18th. They convert 37.5% of the time. Ron Crawford says take the plus 10.5 now. I know he got the 11. Pass defense 25th. They allow 230.1 yards per game through the air. Rush defense 8th, allow 100.8 on the ground. Their red zone defense has been excellent all season long. 4th in the league, allowing touchdowns 46.9% of the time. Their third down defense has been good, 14th. They allow conversions 38.3% of the time. They're coming off the 30-24 overtime loss in Cincinnati. They're fortunate to have a chance to win, as they were outgained 499 to 329. They allowed the Bengals to get 34 first downs while they only had 19. Bo Nix was 24 of 31 for 219 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also ran 7 times for 31 yards. And Ron Crawford has an important point. He says if Cincy loses, Denver can rest. It's interesting. Something that I didn't really take enough account of. So the Bengals must beat Pittsburgh on Saturday and then have the Dolphins and Broncos each lose the following day. So the Dolphins, though, if the Broncos beat the Chiefs, then so the Dolphins can get the last wild card spot in the AFC. They face the Jets on the road in Week 18. So, that's...
No. Yeah, that doesn't change it because of that factor right there.
Because what?
Because the Dolphins will be playing at the same time, right?
They'll be playing at the same time as the... No, that game is... Yes, they'll be playing at the same time as the Broncos. So that doesn't change it, right? So that doesn't quite work. If the Bengals lose...
They can't rest.
They can't rest. So that's important. That's important. So that doesn't quite work, Ron. If Cincy loses, it doesn't matter. Denver can't rest. Because if they rest, then the Dolphins can get in. So important point. So important that we talk that out. And there's all these moving parts, so it's important to know where's Ron. That's why this show is so important for us, especially in week 18, to talk it all out. So yes, Chillwell, Denver needs the win, or the Bengals lose and the Dolphins lose. But the Dolphins are playing at the same time as the Broncos. So important stuff. So back to the Broncos. Bo Nix 24-31 for 219 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also ran 7 times for 31 yards. Marvin Mims has been an absolute monster of late. 8 catches, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jaleel McLaughlin, you never know which Broncos running back is going to have a game. Very difficult in the prop market. 10 carries for 69 yards. He led. Broncos were just 4-12 on third down, 1 and 2 in the red zone. It's still mind-boggling to me that the Bengals can have 7 trips to the red zone. The Broncos have 2, and that game goes to overtime. Bengals could get 34 first downs and then be held to 10 points through 3 quarters. Crazy. Zach Allen was an absolute monster. 7 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and 6 quarterback hits. What a monster. Pass rush as a whole had 7 sacks and 15 quarterback hits. But cornerback Damari Mathis left in the first quarter with a hamstring injury, but he's not on the injury report. The Denver Broncos are by far the healthiest team in the NFL at this point in the season. Take it away, Troy. Chiefs, Broncos.
Yeah, I disagree with a lot of what you said about the Chiefs, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about this team all damn season long, and I've seen it differently. I've seen the Chiefs' defensive output this past week against the Steelers. I've seen a bunch of holes and a lot of problems. Obviously, no Chris Jones, so I take it for what it is. But the outside of Chris Jones, I mean, I guess that's their run defense, because the run defense was not even there. I should have took alt lines on both backs, laddered them all the way up in a game where they're trailing, in a trailing game script. And what does that tell you? That tells you that there's a bunch of problems. So all the sacks that they had, I don't think it was due to a pass rush. I thought it was because Russell Wilson looked like a deer in the headlights, and Arthur Smith's scheme was tremendously bad. I mean, if the NFL want quality in the playoffs, the Broncos have to lose this game. Will they? Probably not, because we know the Chiefs don't want to see the Bengals in the playoffs. Both these teams, in my opinion, are going to be fades come the playoffs. And if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, you could put the NFL right next to the WWE as one of the best entertainment businesses in the States. If I was going to bet this game specifically, though, I would be on KC. I mean, this is too big of a number for a quarterback that I think is competent enough to keep a game close versus a team that I don't believe in, especially defensively. I think they're overrated. But the fact that KC wants to lose this game, it just reduces my desire to really bet on them. So I'm not going to be moving on this game. I'm going to pass.
Yeah, I don't know what appeals to me, but I have flipped. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. Last week I told you I thought they were the most complete, and now I do think they're the best team in the NFL. So our playoff breakdowns are going to be really fun, talking it all over. I don't know if I want to move here on anything. Ron Crawford talking about the plus 10.5 for the Chiefs, and Troy talking about it as well. What's your expectation of Carson Wentz? Do you think do you think the Chiefs can put up points? Like, do you think? What is your expectation of Wentz in this spot?
I think Wentz is one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL, but it's hard to know what to expect when we haven't seen him play all season long. So really, really difficult game from that perspective. But I would say that I expect him to be a competent quarterback.
The Chiefs team total 13.5. I don't think they get to 14 points in this game.
Yeah, I think so.
It just seems very, very, very low in perfect conditions. All right. 13.5 is a possibility here. All right. Let's roll on. I think that team total is appealing in this one. Let's roll on. Next up for us, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, LA Chargers 10-6, 5-3 on the road at the Las Vegas Raiders, 4-12, 2-5 at home at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Passing offense 21st, 205.8 yards per game. But we should talk about the Chargers will be either the 5th or the 6th seed in the AFC playoffs. They'll be the 5th seed if they beat the Raiders and the Steelers lose to the Bengals. And it couldn't be more important. Number 5, the Chargers would face the Texans in the wild card round. And it would be a must-bet situation on the Chargers. They'll stay the 6th seed if they lose to the Raiders or the Steelers beat the Bengals. The 6th seed is not what you want. The wild card trip to Baltimore would not be. Now, it could be Pittsburgh, but we're pretty certain it's going to be Baltimore here. Let's go through the line history here for this one. Sunday afternoon action. We'll start with the total. Here we go. The total is a 41.5 at a pick'em. Opened up at 40.5. We've gone up a point to 41.5. The point spread here is sitting at 5. Chargers are 5-point favorites. That's where they opened here. So there's only been 3 cents of movement towards the Chargers. When we get to the cash flow here, we have here we go. 88% of tickets and 96% of cash on the Chargers. Wild. 80% of tickets, 87% cash on the over. I guess that makes sense. I shouldn't be so surprised. Jared TG on the Chargers minus 4.5. The Chargers passing offense 21st, 205.8 yards per game. The rushing offense 18th, 109.1 yards per game on the ground. Red zone offense 16th. They score touchdowns 56.8% of the time. Their third down offense 14th. They convert 39.6% of the time. Passing defense 8th, 205.8 yards per game. They allow through the air, and 16th on the ground, 122.4. Red zone defense is first in the league. They allow touchdowns 44.7% of the time, and their third down defense is 9th. They allow conversions 36.3% of the time. They come off that impressive 42-7 victory at the Patriots. 4th postseason appearance in Harbaugh's 5th season as an NFL head coach, including his time with the Niners. They outgained the Patriots 428-181. 29 first downs. They allowed the Patriots to have 11. Herbert, 26-38 for 281 yards, 3 touchdowns. 3rd player in NFL history with at least 3,000 passing yards, 20 touchdowns in each of his first 5 seasons. Only 2 other quarterbacks to do that, Peyton Manning, Russell Wilson. Ladd McConkey caught 8 passes for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. He passed 1,000 yards receiving for the season. He is the 3rd Chargers rookie receiver to reach that milestone. J.K. Dobbins returned to the lineup. What a difference he makes. 19 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. Offense went 12-19 on 3rd and 4th and went 2 of 4 in the red zone. The defense looked excellent. Held the Patriots to 181 total yards. Held them to 2 of 15 on 3rd and 4th down. Didn't give them a red zone opportunity. Pass rush had 4 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. Derwin James. Good God, is he good. 2 sacks, fumble recovery, leader of the defense. Joshua Palmer left the game with a heel injury. He's listed as questionable. They got bad news on Elijah Molden, their defensive back. He limped off the field after a collision in the 3rd quarter. He fractured his fibula, placed on injured reserve on Wednesday. That is the Chargers. Let's talk about the Raiders. After losing 10 straight, now won 2 in a row. Passing offense 13th. Aiden McConnell looking pretty good, putting up 223.3 yards per game. Rushing offense 32nd, 82.4 yards per game on the ground. But Amir Abdullah now starting to deliver. Amir Abdullah, who has some fumbleitis, after 10 years in the NFL, gets his first 100-yard rushing game. I like him catching the ball out of the backfield. If he can just hold on to the ball, he could be a decent running back. Much better than anyone they've had so far this year. Red zone offense, 29th in the league, 48.8% of the time they score touchdowns. Third down offense also bad, 28th in the league, converting 35.4% of the time. Pass defense, 11th. They allow 208.8 yards per game. Their rush defense also 11th. They allow 115.6 on the ground. Red zone defense, 23rd. 61.5% of the time they allow touchdowns. And their third down defense, 16th. They allow conversions 39.1% of the time. This team fights for Antonio Pierce. They fight for him. They play hard for him. I wish he was better at X's and O's because he is certainly a great motivator. Coming off their second straight win, 25-10 at the Saints. They had the flight delays on Saturday. I know a lot of people moved against them when they found out about this, but they didn't get into their hotel till 1 in the morning, 11 hours, 12 hours before kickoff. They met at the terminal on Saturday. The mechanical issues with their plane, they sent them home. They went home for a few hours. Then they went to the team headquarters. They held meetings there before they flew east. Aiden O'Connell was 20 of 35 for 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Brock Bowers, what a monster, 7 catches, 77 yards, 108 receptions for 1,144 yards this season. He eclipses Mike Ditka's 1961 rookie tight end mark of 1,067 and passes Puka Nakua's 2023 mark of 105 catches by a rookie, at any position. What a monster Bowers is. He also passed Darren Waller's franchise record of 107 receptions this season. That's, only been around since 2020. But Jacoby Myers caught 6 for 61 touchdown, and we've talked about Abdullah. He looked great. Abdullah allowed the Raiders to dominate time of possession, 37-50 to 22-10. Offense 10 of 18 on third down, 1 of 2 in the red zone. Defense strong throughout. Held the Saints to 1 of 10 on third down, 0 of 1 in the red zone. And despite playing without Max Crosby, who sees is over due to an ankle injury, pass rush had 4 sacks and 7 quarterback hits. Take it away for us here, Troy. Chargers, Raiders.
I'm going to start sounding like a broken record, Jim. And I'm sorry for not coming in here with a bunch of action, but it's just not spots that I believe in.
No, I feel you.
I do believe the Chargers are going to be a bigger threat in the playoffs than I had originally thought. I've come around to kind of full circle with this team, and kind of like you have with KC is me with the Chargers. Justin Herbert, he's playing at an elite level. The weapons are there. I didn't think they would be there. Lam McConkey has really stepped up. Quentin Johnson is a good downfield threat, even though they haven't been connecting. He's going to continue to to be a threat in deep ball situations. They have more weapons than I thought. And the defense, Harbaugh has this entire team bought in. They have plenty of talent on defense, and Harbaugh makes that unit extremely disciplined. So I feel like they're going to be a threat come the playoffs, and I might be looking to back them, but not against Baltimore probably in round 1. That might be the one situation where I do not look to I probably wouldn't even bet that game. But we shall see how that transpires as it goes for this game. I'm not going to be betting it. I don't think I have a clear read on what we could expect from the Raiders. I know that we should expect them to come to play extremely hard. What's going to be the situation with Harbaugh and the Chargers? I don't know. So I'm going to pass.
It's interesting, and Rushi is so right. Because we're on other sides, even though I haven't bet it yet, and you've already moved on the Bengals, and I need some time to sit with your plan. But if the Steelers win, game's meaningless for the Chargers. Does that mean that you have to wait to see how that game's banging out before you make this bet? If the Steelers win, is Harbaugh going to be like Campbell and have Herbert out there?
No.
No chance.
No chance. This will be a pick with Easton Stick as your guy.
Yeah, he's been horrific.
He's horrible. So
would you say, even if you're on the Steelers already, that you should wait until you have an idea? God, it's too risky.
That's too risky. You're talking about a massive swing. I feel like you're talking about you get 7, right? And when number moves to 7, number moves to 2.5, 1. It's just too big of a swing. It's not worth toying with.
It's a very, very important point from Russia, though. If the Steelers win, game's meaningless for the Chargers. If the Bengals win, Chargers smash and grab the Raiders. Very, very, very important point. All right, that is Chargers Raiders. So I need to find out what the hell is going to go on before we can know how to move on it. Let's move on. 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Seattle Seahawks 9-7, 6-1 on the road to LA Rams 10-6, 5-3 at home. SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. Let's get into the line history here for this one. Seahawks have been eliminated from the playoffs. The only issue here is for the Rams. They're the NFC West champions. So, they come in Sunday with a chance to clinch the number 3 seed with a victory. So if they lose in Week 18, it wouldn't stop the Rams from being the 3rd seed. They can get that with a loss if the Buccaneers lose to the Saints, which isn't going to happen. So a number 3 seed would mean the Rams would host either the Packers or the Commanders on Wild Card Weekend, which would make for great football. And if the Rams dip to the number 4 seed, a number 4 seed would have them play either the Vikings or the Lions in round 1, something they desperately don't want here. So let's get into the line history for Seahawks Rams. Right now, the Rams are 6.5 point dogs. This has moved up from 3. which tells you, everything you need to know about the situation for the Rams. They're just going to let go here in this one. And it's interesting that they're going to do that, which would, if they do that, if they just let go, they're ensuring they're going to play the Vikings or the Lions. Absolutely wild. Now, Garoppolo, James says Jimmy G fade Garoppolo at quarterback for the Rams. I guess there's just no chance the Buccaneers lose to the Saints, and I guess that makes sense. Jared TG says McVay loves sitting starters. He absolutely lives for that. So Jimmy Garoppolo will be quarterback for the LA Rams. We've seen this move to 6.5. Let's get into the total for this one. This total is now at 38.5. It's juiced to the over at -113. It's come down from 39.5. From a cash flow standpoint, we have 75% tickets and 71% cash on the Rams plus 6.5. 86% tickets, 68% cash on the over. We'll start with the Seahawks. Passing offense, 7th in the league, 238.1 yards per game through the air. Rushing offense, 30th at 93.8. Red zone offense, 20th. They score touchdowns 53.9% of the time. Third down offense, 24th. They convert 36.7% of the time. Real problems that cost them this year. Passing defense, 7th, allowing 205.3 yards per game. McDonald really got this team together after the bye week defensively. Rushing defense, 18th, 123.1. Red zone defense, 9th in the league, 52.8% of the time they allow touchdowns. Third down defense, 11th, allowing conversions 37.1% of the time. Seahawks coming off extra rest after an ugly 6-3 win at Chicago last Thursday. 6-1 now on the road. Can you imagine a team going 6-1 on the road and not making the playoffs? They were eliminated from the playoffs when the Cardinals lost to the Rams. Against the Bears, Geno was 17-23 for 160 yards, ran 3 times for 19 yards, also fumbled twice. Fortunate not to lose either of them. We know what he plays like indoors. Very well, obviously. Noah Fant led where he's this week, and of course last week he was outdoors in Chicago. Noah Fant led receivers with 4 catches, 43 yards. Kenneth Walker dumped for the year with an ankle injury. Zach Charbonnet finished with 15 carries for 57 yards and caught 3 passes for 19 yards. Seahawks were just 5 of 13 on third down, failed in their only red zone attempt. The pass rush was dynamic. 7 sacks, 10 quarterback hits led by Leonard Williams, who had 5 tackles, 3 for a loss, 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. Reek Woolen had that game-saving interception. The defense was excellent, held the Bears to just 179 total yards. Bears were just 5 of 15 on third down, failed in their only red zone attempt. We don't need to go through the Rams' offensive numbers because they will change drastically with Jimmy Garoppolo, at quarterback. The defense, though, passing defense was a problem, allowing 223.6 yards per game. The rushing defense was a problem, 24th in the league, allowing 130.3 yards per game. The red zone defense was strong all year, 5th in the league, 47.2% of the time they allowed touchdowns. Third down defense, 19th, line conversions 39.9% of the time. So Rams coming off their 5th straight win, ugly 13-9 victory at home over the Cardinals. They won despite being outgained 396 to 257, 12 first downs. Rams had 25. Wow. Stafford 17-32 for 189 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Puka Nacua caught 10 for 129, but he's not going to be in the lineup. Kyron Williams ran 13 times for 56 yards and a touchdown while catching 3 for 16. Rams were 6 of 15 on third down, 1 of 2 in the red zone. Defense bent but didn't break. Stepped up when it mattered most. Held the Cardinals to 0 of 2 on fourth down and 1 of 4 in the red zone. Pass rush had 4 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. Kitchens and Kilo Witherspoon had interceptions. The interesting thing for them is Rob Havenstein, he's out with a shoulder injury, so he missed his 5th game of the year. But Joe Noteboom, who is such a very consistent, good lineman, is being terrible. So he fills in and takes 3 holding penalties. Take it away for us here, Troy, my man, Seahawks, Rams.
Based on the conversation we had, I think that means the Rams are earmarked to play Washington in the first round of the playoffs, and I would love me some Rams in that situation. In this matchup, just like a lot of other matchups, this line has moved too far. But now we know where this.
Can we stop that for a second? Doesn't this mean they're giving up on the number 3 seed and that they're going to face the Vikings or Lions guaranteed? Because if the Buccaneers, they can only clinch the number 3 seed with a victory, and they're giving up on it by playing Garoppolo. The only other way they get the 3 seed is if the Buccaneers lose to the New Orleans Saints.
Then I had that wrong too.
But isn't that crazy? Why would they? Now I guess they're saying, look, we can beat any team in the league at home. we beat the Bills. Why wouldn't we be able to beat the Lions or the Vikings?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I see people in the chat saying that they don't care about the seed, and obviously they don't. They think they can beat anybody or play with anybody. And I think that they're going to be a dangerous team. Anytime you got McVay, you got the tandem of McVay and Stafford, you're going to be a formidable team come playoffs and a win or done, type of situation. And despite all my negative sentiment for this Rams team, I kind of want to back them. I think they're a major threat. I think the defense has some favorable traits, and I think they've been uptrending. Like I sure as hell wouldn't want to see this team first round. And the Seahawks, I feel like I've had this team right. This is the epitome of a league average football team, and Geno perfectly embodies a league average quarterback. I'm not going to have a play in this one. I do think the Rams are interesting at +6.5. Garoppolo is a competent backup quarterback. And right now, in some of the depth charts I see Puka and Kupp still in there. But if Stafford is out, we should expect them. I kind of missed your part of this, Jim. What do you think? Puka, you said he's going to be out.
I think Puka's out. I think Cooper Kupp's out. I think they're resting everybody. Not
announced yet, though, correct?
Not announced.
Yeah, see, it's not worth getting involved. I pass on this game. Not interested. I'm waiting patiently for playoffs to start. I got a lot of revenge when it comes to playoffs in sports, and it's paying dividends so far in the few sports, in the NCAA. So I'm going to do the same thing in the NFL. I'm just focused on playoffs.
Well, is the only possible thinking this is that they expect the Lions to beat the Vikings? Or do they think the Lions are so beaten up and hurt that if the Lions had to come to LA that they can beat them?
I mean, the Rams have proven that they could play with the Lions. I mean, they've proven that for a few years now. But if I were the Rams, I definitely want to see the Vikings, who they've also handled at home already once this season.
Unbelievable. I'm surprised. I guess it's sort of what you were saying, and some people in the chat have been saying that seeding is not important. You just have to be playing your best football, and the only way to play your best football is give Stafford an extra week of rest. I'm shocked. I really am shocked. It doesn't really make sense to me. Why you would just say, okay, well, I mean, now maybe they're saying that the difference between the Packers, the Vikings, and the Lions is minimal. They're saying that because they're going to be at home regardless, and they can beat any team in the NFC at home. And that, I guess, is starting to make sense now that I say that out loud. Surprising. Jimmy Garoppolo will be a quarterback. Lions moved to 6.5 here. The Seahawks have nothing to play for. Do the Seahawks show up here?
Yeah, Geno Smith has the biggest incentives that are still open. Like, I don't know, is it $4 or $5 million or something? So I know that he's going to be come out slinging it. He could have a massive payday.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Okay, let's roll on. Next up, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, the Miami Dolphins 8-8, 3-5 on the road. The New York Jets 4-12, 2-5 at home. We're at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. This is an interesting spot here. Let's start with the weather we have right now on Sunday. Again, this game starts a little later. It's at 4:25 p.m. We have 36 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 7-mile-per-hour winds. It's pretty nice. Let's talk about Dolphins. Let me ask you this, though, Troy, first off. Let's go over Miami needs to win, at the Jets and hope the Broncos lose at home to Kansas City. So that's going to be a very, very tricky situation. We watched Aaron Rodgers look horrific last week. Nothing's been announced yet, but do you think that Ulbrich is going to come out and say Tyrod Taylor is starting here and Aaron Rodgers is emergency third string?
I'm not sure. I feel like I don't know enough of that. I don't know enough about that, but I would definitely be surprised because we know Aaron Rodgers has basically been the man in charge over there all season long. and he wants to throw a touchdown pass to
Get to 500.
Yeah.
But what do they care? He's screwed the franchise over. Why would they? What do they care if Rodgers gets to 500? I was thinking honestly that I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow on Thursday the Jets come out and say, "Look, we're starting Tyrod Taylor and Aaron Rodgers will be an emergency third string," implying that he's played his last game for the New York Jets.
I would not be surprised. And Tyrod Taylor's a backable quarterback as well.
Let's go over the line history here for this one. This total is at 39.5. It's minus 108 to the under. It opened up at 40.5. We've moved down a point on the point. That was 39.5, right? So it's a point. I didn't say 38.5, did I? Let me just take a look at that one more time. The 39.5, yeah. So it's moved a point. On the point spread here, we have the Jets +1. It's juiced +1. The Jets opened up at +2.5, and we're at +1 now. So a legit line move towards the New York Jets. That's likely implying that Tagovailoa is not going to play here. He wants to play, but it sounds like the hip is not going to let him. Honestly, I don't know how you go forward with Tua Tagovailoa as your quarterback, knowing that he's one hit away from, sitting for 4 weeks. And I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you can get out of the contract or get out of what you've set up to pay him with that last extension. 32% of the tickets on the spread are on the Jets, with 57% of the cash line moving towards them. We have 76% of tickets and 85% of the cash on the money line on the Dolphins, though. And then 83% tickets, 82% cash on the over. Let's start with the Dolphins. Passing offense 15th, 221.1. Rushing offense 24th at 103.8. Red zone offense 13th, best in the league, 58.3% of the time they score touchdowns. Their third down offense is 22nd. They convert 37% of the time. Passing defense 9th. They allow 207.8 through the air. Rushing defense 9th. Their defense has been great all year. They allow 102.8 yards per game. Their red zone defense is 2nd in the NFL. They allow touchdowns 46% of the time. Their third down defense is 5th. They allow conversions 35.5% of the time. Miami here, we went over their need to win and hope the Broncos lose at home to Kansas City, which is very, very unlikely. The Dolphins coming off an impressive 23 victory at Cleveland with Huntley at quarterback. Snoop delivered, man. 22 of 26, 225 yards in the touchdown. He also ran 7 times for 52 yards in the touchdown. Mike McDaniel said that Tyler Huntley will get more practice reps than Tagovailoa. That was reported by the Miami Herald. Barry Jackson quoted McDaniel saying that. So I think that he's not playing in Week 18. And I don't think that should matter. Now, I think we probably want the announcement. Tyreek Hill caught 9 passes for 105 yards. The run game continues to struggle. Devon Achane, 10 carries for 25 yards. The offense struggled at times. 2 of 12 on third down. But when it mattered most, Snoop delivered. 2 of 2 on fourth down. And then they were 2 of 12 on third and fourth down, but 2 of 2 in the red zone. So on the red zone, he delivered. They held Dorian Thompson-Robinson of the Browns to just 3.6 yards per play. The defense stiffened when it mattered most, held the Browns to 0 of 4 on fourth down and 0 of 3 in the red zone. Pass rush had 1 sack, 6 quarterback hits. Tyler Dodson had interception. Teron Armstead left in the second quarter with a knee injury. It's bothered him for weeks. I just don't see why Teron Armstead would play here. Patrick Paul filled in. Waddle was inactive, and Mike McDaniel thinks that Waddle might play here. I don't know why he would, but he thinks that he might. He says he's optimistic that Waddle will play. The Jets are 17th in passing, 216.1 yards per game through the air, 31st in rushing at 90.2. Red zone offense is 25th. They score touchdowns just 52% of the time, while their third down offense is 15th, converting just 39.4% of the time. Their pass defense 5th. They allow 192.3 yards per game through the air because they're generally behind and teams are just running the ball down their throat to finish off the game. They're 15th, line 120.3 yards per game on the ground. Red zone defense poor, 19th, 60.3% of the time they score touchdowns. Their third down defense 17th, converting 39.4% of the time. Just coming off an ugly 40-14 loss at Buffalo. They're going to have 5 or fewer wins for the 7th time over a 14-season playoff drought. That 14-season playoff drought is the longest streak in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers comes in with 499 career touchdowns, looking to become the 5th player to reach 500. Instead, shut out and becomes the most sacked quarterback in NFL history. 568 sacks. He's 3 ahead of Brady. Tyrod Taylor did everything for New York. 9-yard touchdown pass to Garrett Wilson, 20-yard to Tyler Conklin. Rodgers was 12 of 18 for 112 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Tyrod Taylor was 11 of 14 for 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, the defense wasn't trying at that point. Garrett Wilson caught 7 for 66 and a touchdown. 1,000 yards receiving for the 3rd straight year to start his career. First Jets player to do that. 10th player in NFL history to do that. Excuse me. Breece Hall ran 10 times for 45 yards, caught an 8-yard pass. He also lost a fumble. He's been so bad this year, man. Offense 4-9 on 3rd down, 1-2 in the red zone, but they were shut out until the 4th quarter. Defense couldn't get stops. Bills went 8 of 14 on 3rd down, 3-3 in the red zone. Pass rush was completely invisible, finishing with 0 sacks and 3 quarterback hits. Why on earth aren't we on the Dolphins? So what do we need to have happen? Tagovailoa announced out, and then if Aaron Rodgers announced in, what does it matter? If it's like what? Okay, so if Tagovailoa is announced out, I know the market's telling us that's going to happen already, but do you think there's another point that it moves? And then would the line move if Rodgers was not in?
Yeah, I think that's my problem with this game. That's exactly my problem. Because I could see this line moving drastically at this point, or flipping even, based on who's in and who's out. It's so hard to know and so hard to move. I mean, you don't want to be sitting on Sunday with a ticket. I mean, I talk about CLV not mattering as much for me as it does to other people, but when we're talking about multiple points, and it just changes, your expected value on that play. And I'm thinking about numbers as you were talking about some of the numbers. I wanted to say that there's a lot of misleading numbers at face value, and I work with numbers all day. Listen, my boss asked me to present numbers that I manipulate to our liking, whatever we need to present for that matter. You look at Burrow versus man coverage. You heard a lot of sentiment about Burrow versus man coverage against the Broncos, where his numbers are terrible. He's bad versus man coverage. Well, he's only seeing man coverage on less than 20% of snaps, and it's because he's got 2 dynamic receivers that beat man coverage. So it's a surprise. You mix in some man coverage, right? So it's what I'm saying is there's just so much noise in some of these numbers, like the Ravens, yards per attempt, the passing defense, right? When you're leading by margin, you're allowing a lot of efficiency underneath throws. You're allowing teams that nickel and dime you, pick up some yards after the catch. A lot of teams in terms of yards per carry, defenses that defend that should have a good rush defense, is because they're prepared for runs. If they're trailing by margin week in and week out, they're going to have a decent number there. There's a lot of numbers that can be misleading. I just wanted to say that as I was reading through the chat and just talking about numbers on a daily basis here, on a weekly basis. But this is just another game I don't want nothing to do with, because I feel like who's in, who's out. This line could move drastically. There's plenty of questions surrounding these two teams coming into the offseason. And it's a complete pass for now. Complete pass for me, Jim.
If Huntley is announced in and the line keeps moving towards the Jets, is there no chance you'd have interest in the Dolphins?
No, I'll have no interest in the Dolphins in this matchup.
And that is because, because the Jets are at home and we've seen them look okay at times. I mean, you'd have to go back to that one win over the Patriots. I mean, what?
I don't know what to expect from this Jets team. It's a team I've gotten wrong all season long. It's not a game that I feel like I can be involved in and keeping my mental mind state on track.
No, I hear you. No, it's all good. Respect for fighting through the illness to be here today. I am under the weather as well, but capping is the most important thing in our lives. Chase says, what do you all think about Pat McAfee torching the Colts for being losers? I was fine with it. I had no problem with it. I kind of liked it. I get he's upset. He cares. Doug White saying CLV isn't something he prioritizes, but he prefers the advantage of more market development. It depends what sport. And it's so important because college basketball, when you beat a line move by 4 or 5 points, it's hugely important. CLV can be hugely important. But in the very public sports, you're getting CLV because you notice the public play before the public because you do it full time. And I learned this in NHL. I had a horrific ROI when I destroyed line moves by 60 cents, 70 cents. And Peter would talk about it too. Horrific. If the line stayed still, my ROI was great. That's the best that I could get in the NHL was when the line did move. And when the line went against me, I had a positive ROI. And when the line went with me, my ROI was way negative. I mean, what does it matter if a pro sees a public spot before the public? But that's a different conversation. Let's roll on. Next up for us, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, San Francisco 49ers, 6-10, 2-5 on the road at the Arizona Cardinals, 7-9, 5-3 at home at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. The big news, of course, for the Niners is Brock Purdy will not be starting. Joshua Dobbs will start in place of Purdy with the elbow injury. Nothing on the line for either of these two teams, but Purdy, elbow contusion and nerve inflammation in his right elbow. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We have Arizona minus 4.5 and minus 107. Opened up at minus 106, now minus 107. On the total here, we have the 43, slightly juiced to the under. That's exactly where this opened. You know, I can't help but every time I watch Darnold play, I'm like, wow, was Darnold the best quarterback on the Niners roster? It's just fascinating. Let's get to the cash flow here on this one. From a cash flow perspective, 48% of tickets, 50% of cash on the cards. Very 50-50 on the spread. 20% of tickets and 38% cash on the under. Let's go. We start with the Niners. We don't need to talk about their passing offense because it's obviously, going to be worse with Joshua Dobbs at quarterback. So we don't need to talk about that. We can talk about their defense. So passing defense, 4th, 189.8 yards per game. Greenlaw's not playing. There's a list of players who aren't going to be playing for the Niners. Rush defense, 17th, 122.9. Now, of course, Joshua Dobbs got the opportunity in Minnesota because of playing for Arizona. I don't know exactly, if there's Rebenga involved or anything like that. But it is, important. Dobbs, was a quarter. I guess I don't know. You guys can tie that together. Maybe Troy can touch on if that interests him at all. Red zone defense here for the Niners was horrible all year long, 66%. And their third down defense, 25th, 43.4%. You know what's really important, Troy, that I need to remember, as we go through is that the teams where you have a vividness bias of them having a good defense, and when their red zone and third down numbers are bad, usually after 4 or 5 weeks, I'm like, I think the numbers will work themselves out. None of them ever did. Those were just not nearly as good defenses as they were last year. And I need to remember that it's the vividness bias that's making me think that the numbers will work themselves out. I even said that at week 5 about the Niners. I'm like, don't worry, the numbers will work themselves out. They never did. They never did. It reminds me of the Eagles last year. Exactly. And I said the same thing about the Eagles. Our numbers will work themselves out. They never did. So it's crucial next year that when you see after 5 or 6 weeks a team that was very good defensively last year showing bad numbers, that's who they are. And if there is a change, it will be a slight change. Niners coming off a wild 40-34 loss at home to the Detroit Lions. Purdy was 27-35 for 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions before leaving the game. We talked about that. Ricky Pearsall, 8 catches for 141 yards, touchdown. George Kittle caught 8 for 112. Well, what are they going to do when Joshua Dobbs is throwing the ball? He is probably better with his legs than throwing. Garendo has not looked very good. 9 carries for 34 yards. Offense put up 475 yards, 6 and 9 on 3rd and 4th down. A perfect 5 for 5 in the red zone, but the defense couldn't get any stops. Lions went 11 of 17 on 3rd and 4th down, 3 of 4 in the red zone. Bosa had 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. No one else on the pass rush touched the quarterback. No one. So Nick Bosa had 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. Not one other player on the Niners touched the quarterback. When Shanahan sent Moody out for the 58-yard field goal, I could not believe my eyes. Moody has missed 9, had missed 8 field goals. And you're going to expect him, with all eyes on him, to kick his career-long 58-yarder? I couldn't believe my eyes that Shanahan would make such a terrible decision. I was astonished by that. Let's talk about the Cardinals. There's 0% chance I would look at this ass clown that's having the worst season of his career and say, oh, yeah, in a spotlight game, he's going to go kick a career long for me. I knew that the Niners backers were screwed when that happened. The Cardinals, passing offense 18th, 212.3, rushing offense 7th, 143.8, red zone offense 22nd. Score touchdowns 52.8% of the time. Third down offense 8th. They convert 43.4% of the time. The defense has been good at times, but their third down defense just lets them down game after game. 28th in the league, allowing conversions 44.1% of the time. Passing defense 12th, rush defense 20th. Red zone defense has been great. They're 7th in the league, allowing touchdowns 50.9% of the time. Cardinals coming off a 13-9 loss to the Rams for their 5th loss in 6 games. Outgained the Rams 396 to 257, but continually struggled with the game on the line. Kyler Murray, 33 of 48 for 321 yards, touchdown, 2 picks. Cards were 1 of 4 in the red zone, obviously doomed their chances of winning. They managed just 3 points with 3 drives in Rams territory in the fourth quarter. Trey McBride caught 12 passes for 123 yards and a touchdown. That was his first touchdown of the season. Can you imagine in the same game, Troy, you catch your 100th reception and your first touchdown? We will never see that again in the history of NFL. Marvin Harrison Jr. caught 6 for 96. James Conner tried to play despite the knee injury. 4 ineffective carries, shut down for the year. So Conner's on IR, and they also placed Trey Benson on IR. So Michael Carter led the way with 13 carries for 70 yards. The defense was strong throughout. Pass rush is nowhere to be found, though. 0 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. Held around 6 of 15 on third down, 1 of 2 in the red zone. And now Garrett Williams is in concussion protocol. He won't make it out of concussion protocol. You know, when I was beginning this breakdown, I was moving towards the Cardinals. And by the end of the breakdown, I don't think I want them. Take it away, Troy. 49ers Cardinals.
I swear, usually, if this is the first time you're watching this show, usually I have plays on almost every game. But this is another one, meaningless game this week that I really don't want nothing to do with. You got a 49ers team. You touched on this defense, which we've always thought of as being this competent, capable group of just being able to change the game and keep a team in a game. Not the case. I mean, they just gave up 40 points to the Lions. They're on the road this week against the Cardinals with nothing to play for. The last 3 road games they've played, the Dolphins dropped 29, the Bills dropped 35, and the Packers dropped 38. On the other side, you got the Cardinals with Kyler Murray. Even when they have something to play for, you don't know what to expect with this team. They could put up a very capable effort, or they could absolutely look like shit. We've seen it this season. I mean, week in and week out, you never know what you're going to get. They've now lost, 5 of the last 6 games. You know, the 49ers, they're in untreaded territory, and they've been playing awful in this untreaded territory where they do have nothing to play for the first time in years, and they've looked bad. So I would expect that to continue. This low total surprising. I would expect points in a matchup like this. I would expect a higher number. The fact that I'm not seeing it is telling me that the Cardinals defense or the Cardinals offense without James Conner, without Trey Benson is lacking. Maybe the under is the best play in this game, but once again, it's a game that I do not want to have action and have money on come Sunday.
You think Dobbs has revenge in his mind against the Cardinals, or do you think he's thankful to the Cardinals for giving him an opportunity to get jobs in the NFL?
Yeah, I don't think it would be revenge necessarily, especially with how his career has came to fruition. Yeah, I don't think it would be a vengeful attitude.
It's crazy. It's crazy that even this total to me. I mean, the 49ers defense can't stop anybody, but then would I be then comparing the Cardinals offense to the Lions offense, which is ridiculous?
Right.
This is just nothing on the line. It just feels like there's so much volatility in this with the total and the side. I don't know how you can necessarily have faith. I mean, the Juice saying anytime touchdown with Dobbs. Maybe that's it. Rick J says may take both kickers over 1.5 field goals. This is not appealing. And it's okay that not all these games are appealing. We have the playoffs right around the corner. You don't want to put yourself in a vulnerable situation here. That is the end of the afternoon action. Let's talk about the big one. The biggest game on the card, the biggest regular season game we've seen in some time, 8:20 p.m. Eastern. The Minnesota Vikings, 14-2, 6-1 on the road at the Detroit Lions, 14-2, 6-2 at home. We're at Ford Field in Detroit. Michigan. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We'll start with the total 56. Good God. This opened up at 51. And it's got all the way up to 56. But that doesn't tell the whole story. This was a 58 on Tuesday morning. This was a 58, Troy. Absolutely nuts. Now, my problem is I've messed with some of these very high totals and went on the under, which in the past has been very fruitful for me, and it's crushed me. Anytime. It's funny. It's like I have that 23-20 game in Arizona in my head. This is a different Lions team, and they're just putting up massive amounts of points. Now, I wasn't on the under against San Francisco, but I heard it broken down why someone was on the under, and that made sense to me. In the end, with not enough or nothing on the line, how can you expect any defensive accountability? Here, you would expect defensive accountability, like those who bet the under in Minnesota, Green Bay, and that still managed to climb over. Let's get to the point spread here for our last game on the card. Detroit is a -2.5, and it's juiced to -123. It's basically a 3. This opened up at a 3. That 3 was juiced towards the Vikings at -110. The Vikings immediately started getting action. This +3 got up to -126, then it came back a little bit. Then it got up to -130. Then it came back a bit. Again, it got up to -124 or so. When this is a 3, the Vikings are getting bet pretty heavy. When this is a -2.5, the Detroit Lions are getting bet pretty heavy. Let's take a look at the money line here for this one. On the money line right now, the Lions are at -157. They opened up at -162. They got down to -146. That was 2 days ago. Then they got down. Then it went back up. It's been bouncing. Then they got down to -143 at one point. The lowest watermark here, it was -140, and that was at noon on Tuesday, New Year's Eve. So now we're back at -157. An interesting addition to your gambling portfolio this year, Troy, has been trusting some of these money line spots with heavier juice. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've not lost any of them.
I have not lost one of those bets yet. Anything over -150.
You've won every one of them.
Money line.
Now, we're not talking about a huge quantity. How many is it being? I mean, I track all your actions. Is it being 4 of them?
Four.
So you're 4 for 4 on the money line. Talking about the evolution of our gambling and trusting some of the public spots and hammering these double results, these money line spots, between -1, what did you say, -140 to -180? Or
I actually been at -185 was the biggest I played this past week on the Lions. So usually my rule would be, nothing over -150. And I've starting to come a long way as my sample builds, and I start to get confidence with it.
On the spread, 58% of tickets, 60% of cash on the Minnesota Vikings. Again, that doesn't tell the whole story because you'd want to know who's moving on at 3 and who's moving on at 2.5. On the money line, 80% of tickets, 86% of cash on the Detroit Lions. On the total, 31% of the tickets, now 30, it just moved, 30% of tickets and 47% of the cash on the under. Let's roll. We'll start with the Minnesota Vikings. Passing offense, 5th in the league, 243.8 yards per game. Watching Darnold last game, I really wondered if he was the quarterback that should have been destined to be the 49ers quarterback and not Purdy. Rushing offense, 19th, 108.4 yards per game they get on the ground. Red zone offense, 10th, 59.7% of the time they're cashing. Third down offense, 11th, 41.2%. Their passing defense is 28th in the league with 243.6 yards per game allowed, but their rush defense is second, only allowing 88.1. Red zone defense, 16th, allowing touchdowns 56.5% of the time. Their third down defense, 4th, allowing conversions 35.3% of the time. Of course, the NFC North title, the NFC number 1 seed, and home field advantage throughout the playoffs is on the line here. The loser is the number 5 seed, where they would go on the road in round 1, either to face the Buccaneers, the Rams, or the Falcons. The Vikings coming off their 9th straight win. An impressive 27-25 home victory over the Packers. Shout out to our guy, Clint, started the Die Hard MMA podcast, who is bullish on the Vikings in that game. Also bullish on Jordan Addison touchdown, which he got. Jalen Naylor was great too. 5 catches for 81 yards touchdown. Addison 6 for 69 touchdown. Jefferson 8 for 92 yards. But Darnold. Well, first, they outgained the Packers 441 to 271. They had 9 more first downs than the Packers. They were in complete control of that football game. And then, a couple missed kicks, a couple missed field goals, and 15, they were up 27-12 going to the fourth. Darnold, 33 for 43 for a career high, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. So he is now 4th place in NFL history for touchdown passes in a debut season right now. He passed Favre, who had 33 for the Vikings in 09, and Testaverde, who had 33 for the Ravens in 96. Aaron Jones ran 12 times for 47 yards, caught 4 for 30. The defense bent but didn't break. Packers went 8 of 14 on third down, 3 of 4 in the red zone, but they only put up 4.8 yards per play. It's very fascinating statistically. So they're able to get the third downs. They're able to get in the touchdowns, but they're not getting any big plays. Blake Cashman. I mean, what were the Texans thinking? Blake Cashman and Greenard, you could have got so much cheaper than, Danielle Hunter and Aziz Al-Shire, who I like, but these guys were so much cheaper. Blake Cashman is the heart and soul of this defense. 11 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Pass rush finished with 3 sacks, 8 quarterback hits. Now, outside linebacker Patrick Jones did hurt himself. O'Connell said real positive news on the injury. He has a chance to be cleared to play against the Lions. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions. I've never seen a team like this in my life. I've never seen a team of more character. I've never seen a coach of more character. Watching them against the Detroit Lions was absolutely mind-boggling in a game that meant nothing. Passing offense, 2nd in the league, 266.1 yards per game. Rushing offense, 6th. They pick up 144.4 yards per game. Jahmyr Gibbs has been an absolute monster since Monty went down. Goff has been unbelievable all year long. I mean, when the trade was made, let me ask you this, Troy. When the trade was made, the Stafford Goff trade, did you have any idea that Goff was capable of playing like this?
Yeah, I knew he had the skill set to do it, but there's obviously it wasn't all rosy daisy coming out of his, in his rookie season. I feel like it took a lot of time for him to develop into the NFL caliber quarterback we see today.
Dougie White says Lions barely beat the Niners, means absolutely nothing to me.
It definitely helps when you have complete and, just complete faith in an offensive line that's incredible, right? I mean, it does make a world of difference.
You have a Vikings pass defense that's 28th in the league, allowing 243.6 yards per game. You have a Lions pass defense that's 2nd worst in the league, allowing 250.4 yards per game. So you see the total open up at 51, and gamblers believe they have a huge edge on the over, even in a game that's this important. Rush defense 3rd. Both teams have phenomenal rush defenses, yards-wise, and poor pass defenses. Red zone defense 12th for the Lions, allowing touchdowns 54.9% of the time. Third down defense is number 1 in the league, despite all these injuries. Allowing conversions just 33.1% of the time. They're coming off yet another impressive victory, 40-34 at the 49ers. How they could put up 40 points and beat the Niners with that roster is unbelievable. They beat the 49ers on the road for the first time since 1975. Got a bit of playoff revenge as well. Goff, 26 of 34 for 303 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And Goff said after the game, that's the only way we know. It's just go out and find a way to win. And I believe him. Jameson Williams led receivers with 5 catches for 77 yards in the touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs ran 18 times for 117 yards touchdown, caught 4 for 46. Offense went 11 of 17 on 3rd and 4th down, 3 of 4 in the red zone. And they allowed the Niners to put up 475 yards. That means nothing to me. They were resting players in the second half. They were trying to win the game with their offense. Kirby Joseph continues his incredible season, 8th and 9th interceptions on the season. And most importantly, no added injuries. The biggest game of the year, Troy. Take it away, Vikings-Lions.
Yeah, this is actually a game I like quite a bit. Here's how I see this game. Both offenses are likely going to face little to no resistance. from the opposing team defense. The Lions, because they're absolutely dominant in the trenches, we've seen the Lions work over this Flores defense multiple times, every time in and out. The Vikings, because this Lions defense is decimated with injury. And in a game that profiles as a shootout, it's always better to take the truly dominant offense, in my opinion, which is the Lions. The Vikings on the road, the last 5 games, like look what they've done on the road versus at home. On the road, the Seahawks, the Bears, the Titans, the Jags, all of those games were close, tightly contested football games. And I talked about this before with Sam Darnold, his tendency and his want to throw the ball over the middle, which against the Lions is not where you want to be, not where you want to test the Lions defense. They play a lot of man coverage, a lot of single high. And that single high safety, you've seen Kirby Joseph pick off 2 passes that were thrown over the middle this past week. I feel like that's a great example of what could happen in this game. So you take that into account. I know Goff is not going to turn over the football, or he's going to have less expected turnover-worthy plays. Sam Darnold is going to put the ball in danger at some point in this game. I expect the Lions to take advantage of that. Last time these two teams matched up, the man defense actually held up quite good for the Lions. I know that they gave up 29 points, but if you go back and watch some of the tape, Darnold made some great throws, but they're going to be ready for that deep dig coming over the middle, which they connected for on three different passes in the first matchup for 75, 80 yards. And also Melifonwu came back. This is a guy that I was so high on after watching him last season. I feel like he's making an impact already in his first 2 games back. I expect him to become more and more, make a bigger difference as time goes on. I know they have a lot of, young, good pieces in the secondary, and I expect them to perform. Like, I trust Dan Campbell to have his team prepared. We know this Flores defense is not effective versus a team like the Lions, and I expect the Lions to face less resistance offensively. And lucky for us, we get right now, you get a lot of public sentiment on the Vikings ATS, but you make a good point, Jim. Is it at 3? Is it at 2.5? And historically in this market, I'm not going to lie. It does not look good, but none of these games fit the profile of a game of this magnitude. Okay. A lot of these games are, prior to week 10, prior to week 14, there's no sample in week 18 and week 17 of a line moving from 3 down to 2.5, like it has in this situation in division, because home teams that open at 3 and close at 2.5, like we're looking at right now, that's what the market currently is. They're actually 6-4 ATS. That's good for the Lions, right? But if you filter those 4 losses ATS were all in division, every single one of them. In division, the home team is just 1-4 ATS. Now, there's a lot of different profiles that I put together that were not based on division, that I was really digging into it, and it definitely favors the Vikings overall when you look at the greater sample. But I think that looking at the magnitude of this game, the X's and O's, Dan Campbell, Vikings on the road, I like the Lions. I bet them at -3 for +105. I also bet the money line at -150.
-3 at +105. Money line at -150. It's interesting. Wager Texas says, well, first off, Harold Williams expecting Anzalone to play, which hasn't been confirmed yet, but I'm pretty sure he's going to play. Hard to imagine him coming back to practice and Campbell not saying, let's go. Hard to imagine that. Now, I cashed the over 10.5 wins with the Lions, but I got the Lions division at +130 hanging in the balance here.
And I have the conference bet on the Lions too, and this would be devastating to the Lions to win the conference. You want the road to go through Detroit
badly.
And looking at this market too, we've never seen a market like this where you see a money line price on a 2.5 this high, especially this late in the season. Like, you never see it, and if you do see it, the home team covers and wins at an incredible rate. Also, massive over trends, and every time if you got a money line closing 150 or higher at a spread of 2.5. Not one time has the spread moved towards the road team. So this is a bit of an outlier too. Like, there's more to dig into here, more to unpack. But I think the Lions is the right side.
What do you think of this total?
Holy
got
shit.
up to 58.
Yeah, it's the highest total in the database. I would have to say over at this point. I would have to say over. And the reason I think the over, I do think when I talk about the Lions being able to make stops, I haven't talked about that at all. I expect the Lions to be able to force a turnover or two in this game. And that also, typically leads to more points.
With my plus 130 on the Lions to win the division, plus 600 on them to win the NFC. Oh, sorry. I don't. It's the Eagles to win the NFC plus 600. I don't have the Lions tripping there. With my Lions to win the division at plus 130, I don't need to bet on the Lions here. I have a bet on the Lions, and it's more than a unit. It's like a unit and 2/3. Makes me think that it's just there's just not enough at stake, even though it's a unit and 2/3 on the Lions at plus 130 to move on the Vikings money line.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't in this situation. I mean, the price tag on the other spot is where you have that huge. Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't play the 3 though in that spot with the Patriots, where you hit that middle last season. Remember that?
Oh, that was the greatest day. It was $10,000 day. It was the greatest day. I think one of them I've ever had. With the Lions to win the division, it takes a little bit of the pressure off making a move. I just feel like it's very, very, very difficult. Wager Detective saying Kevin O'Connell better X's nose coach. I've never seen a motivator like Dan Campbell in my life.
Did you see the offense that the Lions trot out there?
It's
how unbelievable it is. I mean, the play calling is incredible. Their unwavering faith in their fourth down offense. The hook and ladder, the goddamn stumble throw. I mean, I don't know, man. There's some good X's and O's happening in Detroit. I don't know, Dougie's talking about they're a far different team without Monty. They're just more explosive offensively.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts them. And thank God you had both of them, because Jahmyr Gibbs couldn't be doing what he's doing for an 18-game season.
Correct.
He can do it now. When they dropped that the trip and that play, I was like, I know they can come up with another one, but it's like, why did they waste it? Why wouldn't you save that for this game? Why wouldn't you save that for the playoffs?
Right.
But
because they're trying to make you prepare for the nonsense. It's always on the back of your head, like, I don't know. I get it though. I agree with that.
Troy on the Detroit Lions -3 at plus 105. The money line at -150. I immediately want to bet the under, but it's just not been working. Even though there's so much on the line, it's so ridiculously high. And I've got the Lions at plus 130 to win the division, and that's it for my Lions futures. Nothing else. So this is going to be a huge, huge game here. Troy on the -3 plus 105, and the money line at -150. And that concludes the 2024-2025 regular season here on Bankroll Blitz. Troy, thank you so much for fighting through your sickness to be rocking with us here. And it was a 3.5-hour show.
I'm running out of words, Jim. I'm running out of words.
You handled it very, very, very well. Let's do a quick review of action here and then put a bow on this show. First off, Browns first half team total under 6.5. I find very appealing. The only concern would be, and I can wait, because my concern would be, what if they're like, you know what, we're going to go with Zappy.
I got it. I'm writing it down. I got it on my list.
But you need Dorian Thompson-Robinson to be a quarterback.
Yeah.
So, in which we expect to happen. Troy is moving on the Ravens to win the AFC at plus 310. Then Troy's on the Bengals -125 and the -1.5, -108. I plan to be on the Steelers here, but I may not move on it tonight as Troy being on the other side. I'm going to give me pause here. So I may not move on that night. I'm going to sit with it a little longer.
I appreciate the respect, but I also appreciate the angle.
Yeah, I just need to make sure that the conviction is there. That's all. And I'm going to need to make that decision in the morning. That's when we all think the clearest. Falcons first half and double result. I don't see how I don't get to the window and move on that now.
I'll have action on the Falcons in some way, shape, or form.
I love it, Clint. The Commanders, and I kind of screwed this up when I was reading it out loud, and it's going to mess up the cut video, but Washington can be the number 6 seed if they defeat the Cowboys or if the Packers lose to the Bears. And I kind of screwed that up when we were talking about it. So I don't see why the Commanders wouldn't take care of business against the Cowboys. Now, the Commanders haven't really given you any reason to have a lot of faith in them. I don't think the Falcons are that good of a football team. Spreadsheet play of the day from Ron Crawford is Minnesota +3. Now it's interesting here, Troy, that you're saying that the books probably want the Lions low key. Don't you think that there's so much money on the Lions to win the division that would trump all of that?
I wish I could cite my source, my reference. We talked about this last year with one of the spots. I think it was the Bills. And we talked about the handle coming in, like how much of their what's the risk? I forget. I'm going to have to touch back on this. Remind me. Oh, man, it's going to get me. I'm going to go back to my card last year with the Bills in this conversation. I'll have an answer for you.
Bears, Packers, no action. Now, the Texans, Titans is just such a mess. I need to sit with it longer. But remember, the weather is horrific with the wind in some of these spots. This being one of them, snow turns into rain. The Texans probably want to feel better about themselves, even though they have nothing to play for. It's a very, very strange situation there. Jaguars, Colts, two teams with nothing to play for. Now, Bills, Patriots. Troy's on the under 38 at -108, and I've got to decide what to do because the Patriots lose. I pick up 1280, which is legit money. And do I want to take the Patriots on the money line just to ensure something comes back? Line's moving towards the Bills right now. That's going to take more time. Giants, Eagles is such a mess. I'm just astonished that people are backing the Eagles with McKee at quarterback. But do I want to buy the Giants high? The answer is no. Nice job, Ziggy. Got the Texans +4.5. Nice job. Mike Evans over 85.5 receiving yards. They can't put numbers high enough in these situations, I believe. Now, the key is you got to get it as soon as it comes out. You can't be 24 hours late. It'll move 8 yards. Then we have, after the Evans receiving prop, Chiefs team total over 13.5. How in the world is that not bet? Isn't that the right angle in that Broncos-Chiefs game?
What was that, Jim?
Chiefs team total over 13.5. 13.5 with regular VIG.
It's on my list, man. I liked it. I know we broke it down. I think it's a good angle. Instead of backing the Chiefs ATS,
yeah,
in total makes a ton of sense.
Get to 14 points because Wentz has something to prove. Chargers, Raiders, we stayed off of the spot. Again, it's a tricky kind of situation here. Now, it won't be if the Bengals beat the Steelers, but if the Steelers defeat the Bengals, they're going to have to. The Chargers. Every team in the AFC wants to go to Houston for their first round game. Every team does. Then we have Seahawks, Rams with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, which is wild. I want the Dolphins, but I want to sit with this a little longer. 49ers, Cardinals, no action. It seems like it's just so volatile. And then Troy on the Detroit Lions -3 +105 and the money line at -150. Thank you guys so much for supporting us all year long. The playoffs will be shorter shows and less difficulty, grinding away and being prepared for. So it'll be more enjoyable, more fun. Shout out to all you guys for supporting us throughout the year. Wager Detective, drop the links. Joe, Jared TG, Ron Crawford, Coach's Corner, Ziggy Balls, Dougie Wise, The Juice, Vincent Hawkins, Harold Williams, Big Show Picks. So exciting to have Big Show picks in his Detroit Lions rolling right now. Clint started the Die Hard MMA podcast. Lil Domo, Chill Will, thank you guys so much for supporting us all year long. Jim Dewigger, thank you. Truly, truly, thank you, you guys. Abel Alvarez, thank you. RVD 420, Luke Burrow, Rick J. Thank you guys for your support. We truly have nothing without you guys. Christian Rivas, you guys inspire us to work harder and to deliver. And we've tried our very, very, very best to accomplish that. Also for our own bankrolls and our own families. Thank you to Jose behind the scenes, working tirelessly, and Troy manning through with the sickness. I'm learning so much from working with you and evolving, and I think so many of us are. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and angles with us. Can you please take us home and put a bow on the show?
Likewise, Jim. As I teach you, you've taught me so much. It's why I'm here. Hey, Pub Sports Radio, I say it every week. I truly fucking mean it. Best damn community in the industry. We got 5 weeks left to knock up these bookies. Let's hammer it home, man. And you know how we finish? With a little leche, los bookmakers.